Of the Mansus. As any student of histories knows, the Mansus has no walls. Christopher Lopoli traveling at night. And there's something about exploring and taking risks and whatnot, but I missed it, so I guess I'm just going to play very conservatively. We'll enjoy things, we'll take our time. Welcome! Some of you may recall I play this game, and I actually play this game fairly regularly, but between Dirty Rectangles and the release of Imperator Rome, we have had a few weeks away since completing our first New Game Plus run. I was thinking a little bit about anything special that I would do, and I do intend to do a small video on the mobile version, which has been very difficult to do because I'm not really set up to do a recording like that. I might even just sort of punt and record. So the big challenge I run into is that I can record the video of the game, but I can't necessarily do any like live commentary over it. I need to find another way of doing the recording, which is not hard because I have this microphone and this setup. But it does involve a certain degree of work, especially with regards to like syncing stuff and whatnot. And it's not impossible. Excuse me. It's actually relatively straightforward, but it's another one of these things that I measure in terms of, okay, if I'm trying to use my free time to to try and do another Daggerfall video, or there's a couple of Cultist Simulator related things which I'm not ready to talk about. Tall Man Alive 1/4 in the System Chalk family, also known as the System Flock. Thank you very much for continuing to subscribe. I'm glad it was on a Cultist Simulator stream. I appreciate your time around here. We're going to take a little while to get in. It's nice to do sort of reintroductions, and of course I'm looking forward to doing this one because it's been a while since I've started a brand new Cultist game. But anyways, as is always the case, I sort of picked trade-offs and that. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I've decided to continue doing the Wednesday Cultist Simulator streams, because I sort of feel unless I have a bit of a pipeline of Cultist Simulator content, essentially what it becomes is I potentially stop doing the Wednesday streams in favor of another way of doing cultist stuff, and then something gets in the way that maybe I didn't anticipate, and as a result some of the cultist material gets sort of pushed aside, and it has the unfortunate side effect of meaning that people who really only want to see cultist stuff and have been very patient in dealing with with me sorting through some of the other obligations that I have, it means that they sort of miss out. So until I have a little bit of a better pipeline, or at least a way of knowing that I'm going to be able to get videos made on time, I think I'm gonna carry on with the streaming style. But fear not, there is definitely some interesting stuff coming up. I won't say soon, because whenever I announce plans, they always take a really long time. For instance, I was planning on doing a 2,000 sub thing, and I still want to do it. I mean, we're now at we were almost at 2,200 with the Imperator stuff, but I think from the Daggerfall episode yesterday, like 5 people unfollowed the channel, which is fine. I kind of expected that sort of stuff to happen because I obviously went very hard on Imperator Rome, and if people get an expectation that I only do grand strategy, they're inevitably going to be disappointed, and it's probably better that they find something that's a little bit more in line with their tastes. I would much prefer that they unfollow than they come into chat and want to know why I'm not playing the game that they want me to play. Which is one of the reasons why I really like Cultist Simulator, by the way, because the people who come in for Cultist Simulator are very nice about the fact they say, I kind of prefer it when you play the game, but I also get that you have your own taste. Like, nobody has ever said, like, oh my god, why aren't you doing it? You're on the Steam page. You have to play Cultist Simulator. I have played games where people are like that, and Cultist is not like that, which is one of the reasons why I'm more inclined to play it. Fans of a game can actually sometimes be the biggest impediment to getting more content for it. So the fact that the Cultist community has not been like that is a really big deal for me. Welcome to Cultist Simulator, version 2019.2.d.1. This is a complete game, but also a living game. Follow us at www.weatherfactory.biz and at Factory Weather on Twitter to learn about upcoming updates. If you find a bug or if the game is crashing on you, do let us know at support@weatherfactory.biz. Thank you, Lottie and Alexis. And in the most recent version, we've got an HQ implementation. There's some additional effects with when the new research mechanic lands. Backward compatibility tweak to allow access to new HQs for existing saves, which we don't need to worry about. I was debating on trying out the Gate of Horn branch, but I figured we'll probably do just a vanilla run. Well, not vanilla. I mean, I don't actually know what legacies are coming up in the continue box. And as I'm always fond of doing, who made this? Well, the responsibilities are design, writing, and coding by Alexis Kennedy, at Alexis Kennedy on Twitter. And he's got that verified check mark, so you know that everything that he says is reliable, and you must immediately take it as gospel. We have got In the Spaghetti. Thank you very much for that, host. How are you doing, and what have you been up to? Production Marketing and Biz by Lottie Bevan, at Tron Bevan on Twitter. Unfortunately does not have the... Oh, I guess it's not a purple check mark. Purple check marks are Twitch. A blue check mark. She does not have the blue check mark of Twitter authority, but is the producer and the marketer and the business lady of Weather Factory, and so somebody who is equally important to follow and read. Doing well, been sleeping. Well, I'm glad that you are here. I am always interested in people who dream furiously on these evenings, but I'm particularly glad that you got a chance to come in. And thank you very much for the host. UI design and coding by Martin Narikar. Now, I'm particularly excited to announce this one because if you guys have not heard of No More Robots, this is by a guy named Mike Rose. I always thought it was a lot... I don't know if he's the only person behind it or if he's just a kind of the front man. I always thought, if it is his company, I always thought it was a shame that he never called it Mike Rose Soft. But then I'm assuming he would get sued. But hello, Resonance Factor. We've got a few people here. Tall Man Alive and In the Spaghetti have spoken in chat. I'm assuming there's a few people who've been kicking around. Anyways, No More Robots will be publishing Martin's game Nowhere Profit. We have played it on the stream, and I really do want to sit down and have a quality, long playthrough of it. We have done a couple of full streams dedicated towards it, but I'd really like to try and make a genuine effort to get some serious progress in the game so I can show what maybe some of the later material is. But anyways, you can find him at, I believe it's Martin Narikar on Twitter, and I believe that Nowhere Profit has its own Twitter as well. And one thing I will say about No More Robots is that they have, Mike Rose is a huge proponent of Discord. I'm a little more wary of Discord. I have one and I use it, but I don't feel good about it. I rank it a little bit higher than Facebook in some cases. But I mean, it's one of those things that one has. But I do know that No More Robots puts a lot of effort into their Discord communities, and they tend to do things like special games and whatnot. So if you've not checked out Nowhere Profit, please do. It's a really well done card game. And obviously it carries the connection to Weather Factory. But on top of that, especially if you've not heard of Nowhere Profit, take the time to check out that Discord channel if you are a Discord user, because I know No More Robots really does put a special effort into it, and I think they do a really good job of getting people interested in the game in a, let's say, a more... I'm trying to come up with the right term because I don't want to imply that traditional marketing methods are scummy or something like that, but it is it's a very sort of community building kind of exercise. They're getting a bunch of people together in these servers to have these communal experiences and in the form of the games and whatnot. And it just seems to be a nice way to get a bunch of people like really hyped for a game without doing, something that's like a movie trailer. Trailers are fine. I love them. But it's just nice to be able to see sort of indie studios play to their strengths, and that is one of the ones that I think No More Robots really does well. Art, we've got quite a few artists. Catherine Unger, Clockwork Cuckoo, Lottie Bevan, and Sarah Gordon. All of them are on Twitter. I do have a little difficulty remembering all of the names, though, so I apologize. Mary Beth Solomon, Brent Barkman, Mickey Erb, and working under the names Mickey Mark Productions Limited. They made this lovely music you're listening to, and the soundtrack is available on Steam. I also believe the soundtrack is available as a separate purchase, as in you do not need to own the game to get the music. I don't know why you would do that, but you can. I believe you can also get the soundtrack on... I know you can get it on the Apple Music Store, because that's what I use, but or service. You can also get it on iTunes, but I believe Spotify has it as well. Soundcuts did the audio. I still remember when the final version of the audio came in. It was really attention-getting. Additional writing by Lottie Bevan, because I am convinced that she's got superpowers. And I did want to take a minute here and mention a special credit here. So we've got additional coding by Fraser McCormick, Chris Payne, and Mark Gagne, also known as Lyra Zyder. Now, I will say firsthand that Lyra Zyder has been really open in terms of sharing some code for a little project that I've had to put on hold for a bit, but something that I'm really enjoying working on. Dealt with all of my stupid questions, very patient with me, has obviously done some work, and as was announced today, is the fourth full-time member of Weather Factory. Has gone from helping out a little bit with, I believe it was sort of cleaning up all the JSON and whatnot, or whatever variant of JSON is the official name of whatever's working on here, because I definitely know when I put it in a JSON parser, it did not accept it. But it's really interesting. I mean, again, it's Weather Factory has been, I've probably interacted more with them than any other developer, and they're just so impossibly nice. And to find Lyra Zyder, who I obviously do not know as well as the founders, to see him added to the team is, I think, a tremendous culture fit. I am in no position to evaluate anybody's coding abilities, but I will definitely say that as far as interactions are concerned, these people they are so nice. They make me feel bad about how I treat people, and I'm not a particularly vicious person in most cases, but I don't know, they almost seem, I have to think that there's some kind of dead, basement of dead bodies to just balance out the niceness that is on display on the Weather Factory team. I will also take a minute before I go on with the credits. There is a new marketing specialist, Claire Sharkey, who is, I think it's Sea Shark Boy, but is now taken over the Weather Factory account, which you can notice actually if you take a look at where the tweets come from. You can usually tell who's tweeting on the account. It's less reliable now, but I had a pretty good detection beyond just the contents of the tweets. You could usually tell who it was based on what program was being used. Finally, additional design by Callan Porter, and last but not least, special thanks Sonia and PK, Matt Hosty, Haley Urias, and literally everyone who has ever sent feedback or a bug report. Thank you. All right, now I apologize for the time that it has been taking me, but I need to make a very quick trip to the bathroom. So I am going to reserve myself the right to... Oh, it's the original Legacies. Okay. I'm going to reserve the right of refusal, but I am also interested in audience selections. There's one of these that I count as I will not do this under any circumstances for this playthrough, but our options for Legacies are the Physician. As the patient descended into the final delirium, I made copious notes. In the buzzing heat of the night, I reread those notes, and they began at last to make a kind of sense. We've got the bright young thing, endowed from birth with wealth and talent. A life of ease, comfort, and delight stretches ahead like an amber carpet. Or the aspirant, June the 28th, once again. I'd love to get a little feedback inside of the chat. I do apologize for taking so long to load the game up, but I would rather get all of the interruptions out of the way first. I'm going to take a minute to refill my water as well. And in like a minute or so, we will be ready for a proper start. And if you have any preferences for starting, let me know, and we'll see if they align with how I'm feeling tonight. See you guys in a bit. Hello. All right. Sorry about the wait. So, oh, you're lurking. Well, I am sorry that there wasn't there much for there to see. By the way, guys, I apologize. I should take a minute and properly shout out in the spaghetti for that host. I believe that is your emote that you just put in there. There we go. All right, so no opinions have been stated. So what do I want to do? I think we'll be endowed from birth with great wealth and talent. A life of ease, comfort, and delight stretches ahead like an amber carpet. And we will begin. I miss the dawn. I generally do. There'll be plenty more. So, if you ever start Cultist Simulator and you don't do this, we didn't have a dancer as an option, Tall Man Alive. There was, come to think of it, I've only ever done the dancer when given a special, when given a special save. So I suppose that just means that I need to play the game more often. Just 1 second here. I want to make sure I get this name right. Oh, interesting. I never knew. All right, well, fair enough. I never knew that this character didn't have a first name, so... Oh, Bulling Dom would actually be a wonderful little... Nah, I think I'll stick with Lord Bullingdon. All right, this is the story of Lord Bullingdon. So, obviously, it's taken me a while to get started. What the devil is this game? Many of you already know. This is a narrative card game. It's like if you had to play solitaire with tarot cards, only not. This is a really interesting game. This is not the first, this is basically not the first sort of level you would be playing if you picked up this game to begin. So, and there's actually a specific kind of progression that's built into the game, which isn't obvious, but it does sort of, I don't know, it's more apparent when you've had a few rounds. I also need to pick a new way of arranging my verbs, so I'm going to do something that will drive me crazy almost certainly, but I'm actually going to put everything on the right-hand side. So essentially, Cultist Simulator will break your life down into all of these little elements, and these elements will be this is an oversimplification, but they will basically be broken down into cards or verbs. And so, for instance, right now, Lord Bullingdon consists of his health. This is my body. There are other bodies, but this one is mind, and my mind needs it as a fungus needs soil. And this and that. One dabbles with writing and one dabbles with painting, but one lives, above all, in the certainty of one's allowance. So, we can click on it. Alternatively, what I could do here is I could click on the work tile, and we say, okay, earn a living or practice the invisible arts, and if I was ever confused, something I can do, something I know, or something that I am, and it will accept these inputs, and it will not accept scholarship. But essentially, right now we have very little to sort of describe ourselves, and it's the interaction of these cards, these elements of our life, and the verbs that really form sort of the basis of the game. And the thing that I love so much about this game is so much is sort of reliant on implication. So possibly I'll get something done today, a golden day of occasional work. And already we kind of get this idea of we, woke up in the afternoon, we are enjoying just sort of a very casual existence. It's all going swimmingly, although Papa's health is not improving. We've unlocked Explore, so we still have this and that, which is what passes for an occupation if you're rich. And we have now got funds. We've got at least a little money to our name. Now, of course, one might say, well, we've got at least a few options. I wonder if... Oh, no, it still does allow health. Because it's an ability. But, I don't know. Do you think rich people normally use their health for their work? We'll just keep doing that. So, a world of possibility. Some ripping sorts are introducing me to some ripping sorts of places. If I ever have trouble deciding how to spend my money, the good people of these spots can certainly be of assistance. So now we've unlocked a couple of locations. We've got Oriflamme's Auction House, and we have got the Ecdysis Club. Well, what are these places? We click on them to find it out. So Oriflamme specializes in curios, perfumes, taxidermy, specimens, and rare texts. It operates from a cramped new premises now, since the destruction of the old by an unexplained fire. I also expect it was unexpected. The fire was unexpected, that is. So we've got a place that sells mysterious items, and the Ecdysis Club, a cabaret with an occult reputation. Notice, by the way, I've been skipping over a few of these aspects, but it is important if you want to really unlock the mysteries of the game that you actually start paying attention to details like that. So it has an aspect of moth, it's also a location. All of these things are not obvious at the moment. But as you continue to sort of go down this path, you start getting some ideas about how these things might relate to each other. But it says here, explore the city with health or followers, explore locations, or investigate the possibilities of lore. Exploration is often unpredictable. So let's see what our health will do. Crowded thoroughfares by day and a fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll walk the streets seeking secrets until I can walk no more. It seems like the sort of thing a man about town might do. A hireling, I found someone whom I might pay to enact regrettable necessities. So we found an experienced swindler, no doubt trying to pick my pocket. And instead we decided to potentially offer them a job, but I have no need for a swindler at the moment. Time passes. Time, the sundial's shadow, passes. I must have funds to live, or I will become ill. So let's just keep going with this and that. Possibly I'll get something done today. I probably should have read the text before, but... Aspect, sheer good fortune. How lucky I have been. So this is around the point somebody might be saying, well, what's the point of this? Well, at the moment, we still have some things that we haven't explored. We've only done health with exploration. There's a few other things inside the Ecdysis Club and Orflam's auction house. It's all going swimmingly, although Papa's health is still not improving. So let's continue on, because if I was going to say, well, maybe I want to work with the Ecdysis Club, well, that's not an option right now, because the only thing that's lighting up when I click on that empty slot here is this and that. So we will continue to not really earn our money, but we'll make it nonetheless. One does need to pay the rent. And we'll wait for exploration to finish before we start looking at some of these others. So better not. I must be careful of the company that I keep. So we're fatigued. We're not going to be able to use this health for a while, but let's see what Oriflam's has to offer. We perch on alarming Rietveld chairs in a windowless auction room with vividly burnt orange walls, waiting for the auctioneer to announce what he's offering. The reek of new paint makes the brain spin. Alright, it's still going swimmingly, although Papa's health is still not improving. So we will put a brave face on it and carry on. A crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes. Who will bid? The item at auction is visible on the right. It will be gone forever if we don't. I've raised my hand. The auctioneer raps out an acknowledgement. Will anyone match me? So this is a book called The Victory of Crowns, Erratic Accounts by one Arun of the Hunting and Consumption of Supposed Immortals by Shadowy Cults of Assassins, published in the late 19th century. I have no means of reading the book, but when you are Lord Bullingdon, you really just pick up books for the appearance rather than the utility. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. Well, I do think it will be worth it, but we don't really have any way of reading this, and the question now is, do I want to go to the Ecdysis Club, the cabaret with an occult reputation, or do I want to go back and see if I can buy a new item? Well, I sort of figured that one might want to be seen in a place like this with a particular prize, so let's explore the Ecdysis Club with a little bit of money. The entrance is lost. The entrance is lost beneath beneath soft drapes of crimson cinnabar and in cardinine. Above the door, the club motto, Ingi rum imus noc teet consumi murigni. It has been rendered as, into the night circle we fly until the fire enjoys us. The drinks, the songs, the light, the arcing walls, the smoke blue haze, the press and sway of clothed and unclothed flesh. How you doing? Is it Simurg? I am doing well. I'm really happy to be back in Cultist Simulator and True Power Prowl. Powell, not Prowl. Thank you very much for that host. How you doing? And we've got 10 people from True Power Powell. So I hope you're all having a good time. Thank you for stopping by. What were you playing recently? Was it Cultist Simulator? The city is rife full of journalists and detectives and other meddlers. How long will they leave me in peace? Alright, I have purchased pleasure. I reel home in the ungodly hours and collapse into bed. So we've gained contentment. I'm happy, I think. And the Ecdysis Club is closed for the time. Well, I got to show off my book, but one can't be seen at the Ecdysis Club with just one copy of a book. So let's carry on and see what else is available. I'm glad you really like it, Simerigo1. I do actually tend to run into a lot of people, who come by this channel saying is like, I'm interested in this game, but I'm having a hard time of it. So I'm glad that you like it right away. And looks like we got a few other people here. So we've got Derwitter, and there you are, True Power Powell. Sorry if I spoke over the... Thank you very much for that follow. Sorry if I spoke before, or sorry, if you didn't come in before I'd finished thanking you, but thank you very much for that host. Who else do we have? Although it's a little hard to figure out the stuff for me. You love the challenge itself. Yeah, and that's really the way the game's been designed. I was actually going to cover that a little bit later, but let me just take a quick second to catch up. Derwitter, is it Grusgott? I don't know German. But hello, and thank you very much. It's very odd. I'm not unlike Lord Bullingdon here, who has been very lucky to be born into wealth, although in my case it's the natural endowment of my voice. Beyond having a speech impediment as a child, I really did nothing to earn it, but I'm obviously very grateful that people like it because it allows me to keep doing this channel to more than myself. So thank you very much for that nonetheless. It's just it's still a compliment I haven't been able to really know what to say to. Who else did we have? True Power Pal says that you played some Anno 1800, but you recently started to do some Cult of Sims sessions in the morning. Well, that is great to hear, and especially for those of you, I do this every Wednesday, so for those of you who like Cultist Simulator, you now have another person who you can watch, because I know I don't do this regularly enough for most people, so do feel free to check out True Power Pal. I've not yet played Anno. That makes me a very bad Epic Games affiliate, but I didn't get a chance to play it during the demo, and I've never played an Anno game before. So who else do we have? Is it Sanmite Monen? Hello. And I'm pronouncing it right. Your name is Paul, but in German you pronounce it like Paul. Okay, great. I'm happy. I'm not totally screwing it up. The one thing I will warn you guys about is I do tend to play these games very slowly. Thank you very much for that follow. I sound like butter being spread on warm bread, but not toast. And Derwitter, thank you very much for that follow yourself. Crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes, who will bid? Well, we've got the Skeleton songs up for bid, and they are poems of greedy delight composed by the possibly pseudonymous Arbella Dusk, the rumored heiress turned madam turned poetess. Everything's still going swimmingly, although Papa's health is still not improving, but that won't stop us from making more money. Let me just take a quick sip of refreshment here so we can carry on. My name just now is clear, and any guardians remain in the shadows. All right, we won the auction, so we now have 2 books, but no means of reading them, because of course, we're rich. We don't have any need for books. But that doesn't mean I can't buy more of them. I've become a collector now, or rather Lord Bullingdon has become a collector, so we will raise our hand. The auctioneer raps out an acknowledgement. Will anyone match me? All right, and it looks like exotic cravings have come up. However, I don't believe we do have any exotic cravings, so we'll likely feel very content in our wealth. What start did you use? Lots of money, so the born rich one. Yes, we're just beginning as the bright young thing. So oh, no problem. I am absolutely incapable of, completely incapable of managing, excuse me, of managing any of my typing after a cast. This is going to be really interesting. So you're absolutely right that I went for the bright young thing. We actually just finished our Grail Major Victory, so the Apostle Victory. But here's something that I've never encountered before on a Bright Young Thing playthrough. So we've got Mortal Frustrations. As yet, I have only the needs and desires of any other mortal, but what stirs in me? So we've got Restlessness. Now, normally, when you're dealing with restlessness, you might want to paint it away, or, you know, it decays into despair, and you get rid of it that way. Now, I don't have either of those options available to me right now. There's nothing that I can do about this, because I don't have any of the required ingredients to to get rid of restlessness. So this is actually going to be kind of interesting to run with. Your pronouncing of your name was really good for someone who does not speak German. Oh, that's wonderful to hear. I do my best, but I obviously don't have the background to to know for sure. It's really nice to get that feedback though, because obviously if you're stumbling around in the dark, a little bit of guidance in terms of what's right will allow me to keep being right, or at least less wrong than I normally would be. One of the challenges of the language for you is there's a lot of specific words that you don't know in this game, but you like it too, learning no words. No rush, huh? Absolutely. I mean, so I can also remember too when some of the lore was called something like an ardent prayer, and then it was later changed to an ardent orison. Now, the literal definition is the same, but very few people will know what orison means on its own. And so this game, if you're a little bit like me and you like going to the dictionary when you run into a word that you're not familiar with, this game gives you so much to work with. But I will also say it's probably a very challenging game for people who may not be familiar or for which English is not their first language, but it's very well written, and so it's also a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more English. You like the positivity you have here. Keep up the good mind. Well, thank you very much for saying that. I would probably not be worth anybody's time if I complain. I mean, everybody has their own thing on Twitch. It's not my place to say, what's good content or bad. There's definitely stuff I prefer rather than another one, but I sort of feel like I don't offer enough in any other regard to be negative. I think if I was negative, I wouldn't have anybody watching me, and for good reason. So it's really my only option, but it's also a lot nicer to be positive as much as I can. I have my bad days as much as everybody else. All right, so the auctioneer made a note of my name, signaled one of his attendants, and I now have my prize. Hopefully it's worth it. And this is the Johnny Big Time! Thank you, Johnny. I should actually take a quick minute here. So Johnny is one of my favorite casters on Twitch. He's been taking some time to himself recently. I've actually been bugging him a lot on Discord, which I sometimes feel bad about, but I also don't want people to think that I'm completely ignoring them. Please do check him out. He's a very different style from mine, but he has got a great attitude. He's got a tremendous sense of humor. He's a really friendly guy. And while I don't want to take a lot of time to, call him out, I mean, I really appreciate him, announcing that resubscription. And 17 months, my God, man, you're crazy. A year and a half if you hang around for another month. But Johnny is an incredibly entertaining caster. He is absolutely somebody who is worth waiting for him to come back on. So I do really encourage you guys to follow him and check him out, even though there's sometimes overlap that we have between our games. And he really is, I love playing games with him too. But he's definitely a lot better at being a bit more action-packed. He's really charismatic. He is a great streamer. In fact, I should take a quick moment here and... he's actually such a good caster, I've given him his own command. But definitely somebody who's worth checking out, and somebody whose presence I always appreciate, although I could probably do a better job of not bugging so often. Who else do we have? If you enjoy it, it's good content. If you enjoy people who watches it, you'll enjoy Simple Logic, in your opinion. Absolutely. I think that's a really great way of looking at it. I know... The funny thing for me is I know a few people who brand themselves as positivity streamers, but they're also really frustrated by the fact that they're not becoming somebody who can stream full time. And that's when the positivity sort of veneer drops. And I've always been a little bothered by that, because this is a fun hobby, but it's never something you should take all that seriously. It's a chance to share games with people. And I mean, Cultist Simulator gave me an opportunity to share a game that I really enjoyed from an early point, and we've been able to follow the development for so long, so that's rewarding in and of itself. But yeah, it's honestly just focusing on enjoying what you like and what works for you, because there's definitely, like, there's no limit on the amount of space on the internet. If, you know, if it doesn't work for you, you can spend the time celebrating what you do enjoy. All right, Traveling at Night, which I don't think I finished, is the annotated dream journals of Christopher Lopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, and bewildering. We can also go for The Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole. What an appropriate companion volume to Traveling at Night. And A Golden Day of Occasional Work. All is still going swimmingly, and Papa's health apparently is only marginally decreasing each time we draw this. But currently we're bidding on The Locksmith's Dream, A Light Through the Keyhole, the first volume of Teresa Gallmer's examination in the parallels of the mystic dreams of artisans. So we'll see if somebody tries to bid up. Otherwise, we'll put Teresa and Christopher get to sit beside each other on the bookshelf, and it looks like we've gotten the sniffles. So let's go back to the auction. Oh, apparently I'm turning into Richard Corey here. Ghastly. Oh no, ghastly news. Sorry, that isn't despair. So I got sick. Apparently I caught something from Papa. Possibly I'll get something done today. 2 funds. Ghastly news. Papa is dead. No one will tell me exactly how, but the estate is an estate. My allowance is tied up in probate and so forth. We can only hope that it's resolved before the bills come due. You're going to sleep now in Germany. It's 2:30 a.m. My God, dear Witter. Thank you very much for that follow. I hope I get a chance to entertain you in a more substantial form, but I think at 2:30 you have earned yourself some rest. So please do put that, I guess that would be a passion on the dream slot, or whatever works for you. Thank you very much for stopping by, your kind words, and giving some support. That especially reflects well on True Power Powell, because I know it's always, it's nice to talk about a streamer. It's nice to see that they hosted, but obviously when they come in with such a pleasant audience, it really reflects well on them. So as I said, if you're looking for more Cultist Simulator content, and especially if my hours don't work well for you, that's pretty much a no-brainer in terms of following. But have a wonderful evening, dear Witter, and I hope you have a very good sleep. We've got the Cool Eagle here. We have just started the Cool Eagle. I mean, you know how I am in terms of taking my time getting started. I will take a quick minute here and say, if you guys like Cultist Simulator, do take a minute to check out the Cool Eagle. I know I've been throwing out a bunch of shoutouts recently, but this just happens to be because this game brings out the best in Twitch. The Cool Eagle has been doing a lot of BattleTech recently. Actually just crossed 500 followers and did a special 500 follower marathon stream. I think it wound up being 500 minute. I think it wound up actually being like a 600-minute stream, but he's a heck of a guy, very friendly. And in addition to playing a lot of BattleTech, which is a fun game, he's doing the mod Rogue Tech. Cool Eagle is a big fan of Cultist Simulator, and definitely another individual who definitely does work above and beyond in terms of that game. So I don't know if I can say he does it as like a regular thing like I do, but he's another incredibly friendly streamer with actually it seems like an incredibly talented family overall. But definitely somebody who I've gotten to know through his channel. He also puts up with me being a complete jerk inside of his chat. I'm sweetness and light when I'm on my own cast, but it's only it's a style that I can only sustain for about 3 nights a week. So another great guy who you can check out if you happen to like stuff that's a bit like mine. 16.5 hours. I hope you have a comparable number of followers to show for it. So you try to promote it when they released. I don't know anything about Priest stuff. What are you talking about, the Cool Eagle? Papa is dead. No one will. Oh wait, we already said it. My allowance is tied up in probate and so forth. We can only hope that it'll be resolved before the bills come due. All right. Well, you know what? We're still going to buy the Orchid Transfigurations. God forbid we show up to book club without a new book. So it's a 16th century alchemical fever dream attributed to Robert Flood, frequently banned for its disturbing allure of its illustrations, and in the original Latin. Dread. I've seen too much. A nameless gnawing fear has its teeth in my hopes, an existential horror. All right, have a great one, True Power Pole. And again, I really do appreciate you I do really appreciate you giving me that host. I know it's always a little bit of a dodgy prospect to host a stranger, but you have an incredibly nice audience, and you are a very generous soul yourself. So I hope you have a wonderful sleep. I really hope I get a chance to check out your stuff soon, because it sounds like you play the sort of stuff that I really enjoy. But thank you very much, and we'll see you next time, whenever that is. All right, so I suppose the question now is, what am I going to do about this dread, and what am I going to do about the state of my finances? In one sense, I suppose, well, I think we can just keep going to Oriflamme's. But I don't really have any work that I can do because I'm sick. The Queens of the Rivers, a crowd of pinched faces, glinting eyes, who will bid? I raise my hand, the auctioneer raps out an acknowledgement. Will anyone match me? Oh, that's right. Okay, I wasn't sure if you... okay. I missed the name before, so I apologize. You... Yes, you are right. You followed on Steam, didn't you? Like, you saw the Steam thing and then you came through again. I apologize. It's really hard for me to keep track of that. I feel a little embarrassed, but I appreciate you being a good sport about it. Have a wonderful evening, though. I won't keep you up any later. The disease has left me weak. I need rest and nourishment if I am to recover. Dream on affliction to transform it back to health before the card decays. Now, of course, I don't have a dream slot. The business of the will has been settled, but Papa's business affairs have been eaten up with debts like woodworm. No one seems to know exactly what he spent the money on, but the solicitor is sending me some papers, apparently. So we've got 20 in terms of funds, so that'll keep me going for a while, and I fortunately have some additional health to work with. How you doing, Casual Nothing? It is Cultist Wednesday again. I've been a little bit bad at keeping it consistent because obviously I had a couple of other things like Imperator going on. Let's read what the study says. I am to receive papers found amongst Papa's belongings, which might perhaps shed some sort of light on where exactly the hell all the money has gone. Alright, and we've won the auction. Actually, you know what? I'm going to slightly adjust this. So the Orchid Transfigurations is in Latin, so books that I can't read I'm going to put on a new level. And here we've got The Queens and the Rivers, a surreal contemporary play by the enigmatic Monica Medina, in which the Queens of the Rivers are murdered one by one. So we'll see if we can clear my illness before too long. The 6 Letters of Necessity, Warnings and Confessions on the Cost of the Invisible Arts by 17th century magus and reputed immortal Julian Cosley. Or I guess it's Cosley. Alright, the house without walls. The dreams begin. Papa spoke of them, and he said that his father before him had been so troubled. Something in our blood. A biting melancholy that kills the soul. Alright, so we've got my dream slot now. I've received the papers. Poor Papa. Page after page of desperate scrawl on an invisible house in the colors of sleep and the invisible gods behind the world. But do you know, the more I read, the more, well, not makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but it does hang together. And here is Papa's diary. So we've got 5 creations. The itinerant scholar Sohai debated 5 possible origins for humanity, with a hooded figure claimed to be the beach crow. Sohai later claimed that these accounts had proven false, but the debate was nevertheless recorded. And we have the ciphered diary, the details of a growing obsession with an individual by the name of Mary Doggerel. Anybody remember that name? Let me just take a quick second here. I actually want to take a minute and look at my achievements because I didn't think about what cult I want to become, and I'd just like to take a minute to see... I think I know what I'm going to go for. But I'm not going to tell you yet. So, we'll read the ciphered diary. Papa's diary. It's a catalog of obsessions. But perhaps it will make some sense of recent events. Please complete the game. We did, though. Oh, in one day. The name of Mary Doggerel appears again and again in these pages. They were a locus of impossibility, a fount of the future, one who has cut the eye, and on the last page there is a correspondence address and a name. So we gained some reason for studying the troubling diary, and we've also gained a red secret, which is some lore that we'll work with. And in this case, we're now going to start making the most of our table space. Oh, 100% the game. I can do that. So I'll put the red secret off to the side here. I mean, I could basically 100% the game right now if you want. I don't think anybody would forgive me. All right, let's start reading some of these books. You know, Papa's dead. I suppose we'll have to figure out what we want to do with our life. But we have all of these books. We'll enjoy, you know, the remainder of the funds, and we've gotten a little bit of a view of this world. We've got the red secret. Some words are spelled correctly only when the proper ink is used. And we can start maybe reading some other things. So, study the victory of crowns by Arun. The assassins are, according to Arun, the agents of a power called the Coronel, a soldier of the secret masters. The accounts go all the way back to Roman times. You have a noob question, if you don't mind. I love noob questions. So we have got, you've been trying to figure out the game, and you notice that you tend to study books a lot, more than other stuff, like work and taking care of the hunters. What's your procedure on that early game? So there's a few different ways of approaching that. I think the way I like to play this game, and it's actually kind of funny. So there's a viewer called The Eyes of Sin, and hey, Sean, great to see you as always. So as I'm always fond of reminding people, The Eyes of Sin did these emotes here. She very regularly watches the stream, and she sort of said, I asked her, I was like, you know, I haven't really thought about what kind of a cultist I want to do, and I gave her a copy of the game, and she is like a very big fan of Weather Factory. So I know that she'll eventually play the game, and I thought, you know, this is probably the closest I'm gonna get to doing a doing maybe not a tutorial, but kind of helping her get into the beginning of the game. And she made a really good insight, or she had a very good insight into the stream, because this is kind of the way I like playing this, which is it's a little story each time. So sometimes I make a particular set of decisions, like I'm not going to kill anyone this time, or I'll kill someone but when it's necessary, or so on and so forth. And I think that's one way of working with it. So in that case, you basically choose the rules of engagement that you have for the game. But the other thing to keep in mind about what your experience, that you tend to study books a lot more than other stuff and so on and so forth. Like, this game is entirely about managing the demands on... Basically, this game is about the fact that the world is not always a friendly place to dreamers or creators or, you know, people who want to pursue something other than what we would consider to be a mundane life. You obviously always have the option of giving up the arcane arts and just going to work for the bank. And so in what you're describing is actually kind of the very center of the game. Now, the way that I tend to... So I play a lot of strategy games, and what I tend to do is I tend to sort of triage what I consider to be sort of my short-term, medium-term, and long-term objectives. And obviously the medium-term inform the long-term objectives, the medium-term inform the short-term objectives. So if you say, it's like, well, I really seem to be grinding through a lot of books and I'm not really getting the information that I need, one of the things that might be happening is that maybe you need a particularly powerful piece of lore. And then you might say, okay, well, the books that I'm currently going for aren't really cutting it. Maybe I need to do an expedition to a more powerful place in order to get that more powerful book. And if you do that, then you say, okay, well, how am I going to get a party together to handle the things in the more powerful location? Sometimes that's going to be a matter of doing some summons, sometimes you'll hire people, and so on and so forth. But there's a few different angles that you can take to achieve those objectives, and I sort of imposed this assumption that really what you wanted was a higher level of lore. So what I sort of do is, it's almost like the hierarchy of needs, right? If I don't have any money, obviously I'm going to spend a lot of time at Glover and Glover. If I feel reasonably comfortable in terms of my funding, then I'm going to go and pursue some books because I know I'm going to be able to go with the study slot a few different times. But my method is driven by two things which may not be the most helpful advice. One is I always like to tell a particular story. I don't necessarily know what that story is at the start, but I always have an idea in terms of who this person is. And sometimes in the name there's a hint. And then on a sort of a second order where it's like, I want to try and advance inside the game, what I usually try and do and say is like, where are things either A, taking too long, or B, what is the thing that I don't seem to be very well prepared for? So like, the fascination keeps popping up and I don't know how to get rid of it. What I start doing is experimenting specifically with fascination to see what I can do to mitigate it. And it's like, well, I know that dread gets rid of fascination, so is there a way I can reliably get dread? Is there a way I can reliably get contentment if it's dread that's doing me, and that sort of stuff. And what I try and do is I try and pare the game down to these very small components that I can sort of, they're almost like bite-sized versions of Cultist Simulator, but all those little ones build up to something bigger. Anyways, I hope that's helpful. If you wanted something a little more precise, feel free to add a little bit more color on what you're running into, and I'll happily try and answer it for you. But honestly, it's usually a matter of identifying either something that's taking longer than I want it to, or trying to find that thing that's constantly getting in my way and I don't have a good way of dealing with. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. Okay. And I've won the auction. We've got ourselves a nice copy of the 6 Letters of Necessity. So let's go back to Oriflamme's. I'm going to keep buying books to make me stop feeling sad, just like real life. And here we can pick up a copy of De Bellis Murorum. And Dark Days. I must be careful not to let doubts creep in. Dread may provoke full-fledged despair. And I am alone, but there is peace in that also. Some days are better than others. Sometimes the sky is nothing like a filthy sheet. Sometimes the river runs clear. So I have contentment. Nope. And the dreams are done. I dreamt of a shriveling light, a sun that crisps snow, but does not melt it. When I wake, the room is always cold. And we've gained a chilly atmosphere, as well as passion. Alright, so now I have all of the resources that I need to be able to deal with some of the problems that I'm running into. The funny thing is my contentment is actually going to go away before I can use it. So let's start here. We'll paint. Oh, I don't have a yearning, so that's not going to help me. I used to paint. I could paint those sights I half remember from my dreams. I might sell something, but I probably won't. Okay, so something else that I can do with dreaming then. Well, I can get rid of my affliction. That's a start. Medicine is dark and as bitter as tar. It would be easy to suspect that I'm being poisoned. I don't have much to do with the chilly atmosphere. A peculiar chill lingers in my rooms. And in this particular case, this should decay into despair, or into dread, which is going to be something that potentially hurts me. Someone else has matched my bid. I must match it with more funds or forego my prize. And yeah, no yearning, so. My new acquaintance speaks authoritatively of Papa. I completely missed this, so I've contacted the individual named in the troubling document. I have little reason to believe that they will be able to enlighten me on the nature of what went before, but perhaps they can help with what is to come. My new acquaintance speaks authoritatively of Papa. He knew that he was dying. He'd hoped to taste unknown pleasures before his end, pleasures denied to the healthy society. My new acquaintance suggests that I might finish what he began, that if I do so, I might save myself from the despair which haunts my family. All right, the answer was really good. I'm fascinated about how you explained it. Thank you a lot. It dissipated some clouds over your head, which is a good thing for you. You wouldn't want to get too many details, but to explore yourself, and the answer was great. I'm glad that you picked up on that, because I love sharing this game with people, but I am absolutely not someone who feels that everything about a game needs to be explained right away. The whole thing about Cultist Simulator is it does such a good job of catching kind of the aha moment, like where you bang your head against a problem for so long, and all of a sudden you have this really great moment where you realize what was holding you back. And if somebody else solves it for you, you don't get a chance. Essentially what you do is you set yourself up for the next time that somebody will solve it for you, and you don't necessarily get that experience. I don't know, Sean, what do you think? Do you think Cultist Simulator needs an easy mode? Easy mode implemented in Unity, I think, was the suggestion. But yeah, it was. It's I don't know. To me, the biggest reward out of it, it's very challenging. I struggled a lot with some of the things early on in the game. I didn't really see all of the content in the game when it was in an early demo, but yeah, I think if you can stick through it, the thing is, the game isn't for everyone, but if you can stick with it, it's a very rewarding game to play, and I personally really enjoy it. So, all right, so Poppy Lascelles, an amiable woman of property. She would like to talk with you. And we've got the Temptation Sensation. I could achieve experiences of an intensity few could imagine. This card will allow you to win a sensation victory if you upgrade it far enough. Dreaming about it might advance or change it. Poppy is indeed a good friend. Alright, a rune scholarship is dubious, but she, writes pithily. Incidents of sudden and violent death are interspersed with aphorisms. Hours don't dream, long try not to. Knife secret. When our ancestors forged swords, taught the arts of martial movement, spoke curses on the eve of battle, all these things shared certain patterns. Joking aside, having played a couple more Ascensions, including the Apostle one, you would actually argue that it does have an easy mode. Is this the easy mode you're talking about? I'm going to stop bringing that up. Alright, let's read the skeleton songs. In Arbrella's introduction, she explains that the book was to be illustrated, but that the Suppression Bureau would not permit it. She hints that the illustration still exists somewhere. The book is dedicated to Sir Percival of the Red Cup. Alright, now I can do a few things in terms of talking. Let's start by blabbing about the knife secret, though. I know Poppy wants to talk to me, but I don't want to talk to Poppy yet. You know, you said joking aside, and I immediately made another joke. I should probably stop that. Oh, despair. Despair pads close at my heels. The world is leeched of light. Alright, the auctioneer again makes a note of my name, signals one of the attendants. I have my prize, and I hope it's worth it. So, let's see if we can do something about our despair. And what does one do when one is despairing? One goes to the Ecdysis Club. The interest is lost beneath the soft drapes of crimson cinnabar and incarnadine. Above the door, the club motto, Ingirum imus nocteat consumi merigni. It has been rendered as into the night's circle we fly until the fire enjoys us. Tonight the performers pass among the audience, juggling knives or bottles of red glass, spending to bestow whispers or other gifts. The sick room grows close and stale, time to get up. And I found a customer. She'll probably hang it in her spare bedroom and never look at it again. But her money is good. Sometimes painting will gain you glimmerings. Study them to unlock more advanced painting options. Let's move that sensation. We got our glimmering down there. I've gained some contentment, which will help reduce some of the gloom. I'm unfortunately not able to do anything with this passion, though. Alright, Dancer pressed a red glass cup to my mouth. Its lip was sharp, my mouth is bleeding, but the wine within was a strong wine. So unfortunately, this probably won't have the effect that I intended. I likely will only get the advantage of one of those contentments. But we'll see if there's like something I can do about improving. Alright, so we can get yet another volume of The Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Gallagher's examination in the parallels of the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. Tall Man Alive says, a 1080p stream would be awesome for this game, but you know not everybody has the bandwidth. Well, you know, what I could probably do, it would be possible for me to make it a 1080p... It'd be possible for me to make it 1080p, but the problem is I could basically keep the upload at the same rate. But the drawback is that you'd have the higher resolution, but it would just be spread, it would be the same image spread over sort of the wider canvas, which is the reason why I go down to 720p. 720p basically gets... This is the photography term. I don't know what the equivalent. So I say DPI. I guess it's PPI in the case of games. This has the PPI that I want, and the challenge for me really is I obviously can do 1080p now without too much disruption to my own gameplay. But the thing is that because I sort of optimize on ensuring there's a certain quality of image at the given resolution, and because I optimize for that, the increase in bandwidth that I would require is more than I can usually bear. But when I do the Surviving Mars streams on YouTube, I used to try and bump up that bit rate until people pointed out that it wasn't being translated on Twitch. So, but I'll see if there's another way that I can make that work. Tall Man Alive. You can barely read some of the text, so I feel that has more to do with the fact that I'm crushing down the 1440 resolution. So what I'll do for you guys is oops, my bad. Let's see if, the lore piece tile's on the table. Yeah, okay, the UI is not going to help with that. Okay, I think what I'm going to need to do then is... Oh, okay. So I'll improve the UI scaling then. So I'll work with that. I don't know if I can zoom in as often because I'm already losing a bit of real estate, but what I probably should do, I love playing games at 1440, but I might need to reconsider that for the purposes of Cultist Simulator, because you're right, it does make things harder for people to read. Just gives them a chance to listen to my voice. That's the real design, right? All right, let's carry on. The city is rife with journalists and detectives and other meddlers. How long will they leave me in peace? Sorry, I can't. I want to be as accommodating as I can, but I do need to still play the game. So I'm sorry you guys aren't going to be able to see some of the stuff on the desktop. I will reconsider the resolution, but I can only accommodate certain requests. I can't if I'm going to alter the way that I'm playing the game, I'm just going to wind up making a lot of mistakes if I play like this. So, the auctioneer makes a note of my name, signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. All right, so what I will do, though, is I'm going to be a little more disciplined in terms of reading the text each time to compensate for that. Okay, so I know I'm not gonna be able to keep that contentment around, but we can always pay to go to the Ecdysis Club again. The entrance is lost beneath soft drapes of cinnamon, cinnabar, and incarnadine. Above the door, the club motto, Ingi rum imis nocte et consumi mer igni. It has been rendered as into the night circle we fly until the fire enjoys us. And, unfortunately, the passion got gobbled up to talk with a potential follower. I didn't really think of that, so I purchase pleasure, I reel home in the ungodly hours and collapse into bed. So this will get rid of my despair. Oh, my name just now is clear, and any guardians remain in the shadows. Well, looks like I've got a surplus of contentment now. So I'm leaving the study open for a specific reason, but in this case, I can probably try and buy something at the auction house. All right, come with me. So I've gained some mystique for my my troubles. There's the knife secret again. And Violet, an acquaintance. Violet has always given unstintingly of her time, easing the pain of the dying. You may be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. So we'll put her down there. All right, now I know I want to use my passion first, so let's read some sentimental literature. If I propose to learn anything, I probably wouldn't be reading this stuff. And Gartside's Sanskrit reader. Well, I suppose I can handle that. How you doing, Pax Cecilia Poems? Or do you prefer as owns? All right, memories of better times keep the wolf from the door. Each contentment destroys one dread. Let's think a little bit about... Should I dedicate myself to the purpose or focus my efforts elsewhere? So... my goal is enlightenment now. Perhaps knowledge is the finer goal. Or is it? Maybe I want passion instead. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I am sane, if that means anything. No fascination drives your visions, it's over for now. Old and happy far-off things. Moth finds light in the dark, and so do I. And I've read sentimental literature. So, I've passed the time I have been inclined to tears, and afterwards inclined to laughter. Meanwhile, the world continues. No preference, you're doing well, busy night. That you've not yet finished, but you can build Netrunner decks while watching. I approve of that choice. I managed to get the last expansion, because I know that was a hard one to find, but I did actually find a copy of it. So I was lucky enough to be able to have all the Netrunner cards, but I haven't really put a lot of thought into deck building in that. I really like the game, so I actually don't have anybody to play with, so. Alright, the Tigers of Wrath are wiser than the Horses of Instruction. If I spend time studying what I've learned, I could increase my passion and gain a skill. Oops, looks like I forgot to tend to the auction. Oh yeah, it was the Sanskrit reader. Alright, well that's not a terrible one to lose. I should be able to find that elsewhere. Despair abates. Memories of better times keep the wolf from the door. Oh, okay, we've already got that. And looks like... alright, I do want to make sure that I keep what is contained by silver. So, the wolf despair prowls elsewhere. And a half-glimpsed wistfulness has touched me. So we've gained restlessness again. A restless longing has me. I feel that I want to do something. What exactly? Alright, so I forgot to put the passion in time, so let's do that again. Perhaps power is a more compelling goal. Now, we have done a power victory before, but I'm okay doing another one. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it's worth it. A bestiary by Pomander in Greek. Alright, there are more windows in my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. I've gained passion, but it will be more difficult to gain passion next time. So I've gained my vivid imagination, which is what I was really wanting to go for. What else do we have? You have Netrunner and was never unboxed because you had no one to play with either. Well, I'm glad that we're all lonely together. A friend of yours from when you were really big into the local scene sent you a lunch invite. We're starting with core set only, and every time we meet up, we're going to add some cards to the pool. Reminisce when we actually. That's a really neat way of doing that. Actually, I'm sure there's still some local people in Ottawa who still want to play Netrunner. But actually, fun fact, like this just gives you an idea of what a completely creepy fan of this game that I am. there was a photo of Weather Factory, and there was like so whenever I see a bookshelf in a photo, I have to look at the contents. I simply cannot do otherwise. But in this case, the shelf was full of games. So there were some games that had already been mentioned in like other tweets. They don't really do it so much now, but there were some really funny tweets between Lottie and Alexis when they were playing. I think it wasn't Dark Age of Camelot. It was Shadows over Camelot, I think. Anyways, it's one of these sort of like there's a level of like social deduction to it. You have to figure out who the traitor is. Really funny series of tweets. But anyways, so you see that on the shelf, and you see a whole bunch of other ones. And there was the Terminal Directive, which was a sort of like a narrative campaign mode for Netrunner. And there's a side of me, like, of course, we already knew that Cultist Simulator was a thing. So I was like, of course they have that there. But it also made me really excited. I have no idea if they've played it. Presumably they have. But there's a small, very arcane Netrunner reference for Weather Factory there. All right, you never know. This might be a living. Add passion to make distinctive paintings. Add mystique to add especially notoriety to attract attention and make more money. Be careful. If you use notoriety, exhibiting paintings will keep you in the public eye. And inspiration. We'll use my restlessness as inspiration. This should have an impact. Is there anything else I can do with exploration right now? Well, I suppose we can go back to Oriflammes. And studying, let's keep going through all of our books. So, traveling at night. The wood lies outside the walls of the Mansus. As any student of histories knows, the Mansus has no walls. And Gildersleeve's Latin grammar. I can work with that. As yet, I have only the needs and desires of any other mortal, but what stirs inside me? I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I think the existing paints are sufficient for now. Alright, more old and happy far-off things because this game hates me. I've refocused my intentions. My predecessors wielded the power of remaking, a power that empresses, generals, physicists could only dream of. So shall I, though the power might sear me. So our new temptation is power. It has occurred to me that I hold the key to power. This card will win you a power victory if you upgrade it far enough. Dreaming about it might advance or change it. Lord Bullingdon is the kind of person who wants power. Alright, let's go back to Oriflammes, because I could use my health to go exploring, but I'm happy enough doing this. Day's work I have not shirked, and I'm just trying to think if there's anything interesting I want to do with my dream right now. Probably not, but that may change later. If I chat with Violet, a new beginning, together we might be more. Here's someone I might work with, a companion or a follower, but first I must give them something to follow, a society, a sodality, an order, a cult. It is a brand new game started for tonight. We're starting as the Bright Young Thing, which I think is fairly obvious to most people familiar with the game. And it's been kind of interesting because a few things have happened outside of an order that I'm used to, so it makes for a slightly more challenging run in some cases. I raise my hand, the auctioneer raps out an acknowledgement. Will anyone match me? And after Netrunner was cancelled, you thought you'd stop buying Fantasy Flight games, but their Arkham Horror LCG is just way too good. Not played it. I mean, the other thing too for me is that I know Fantasy Flight, while they probably knew the writing was on the wall, and I know there were some things that they changed about Netrunner that probably didn't help the sales. I suspect it was very much more a case of the fact that Wizards of the Coast, they simply just couldn't get things to work out in terms of licensing with Wizards of the Coast. So I don't know how much FFG really gets the blame for on that. But again, I enjoy the game for what it is. I don't buy a lot of Fantasy Flight games, but I haven't like sworn an oath of enmity on them or something like that. So. I had no idea you were that close, Cool Eagle, but that makes sense, I guess. All right, choose founding principles, tradition and compulsion, old, new, or both together. Add lore to determine your cult's founding principles. We will establish the Church of the Bright Edge, an occult society dedicated to the hours of struggle and conquest. And I've begun my true work. The authorities will take an interest in it. I must be ready for them. You've begun to establish your cult. You will need a little bit more before you can recruit followers. So I've definitely gained notoriety, which is going to be a problem. Oops. Violent. Get back here. Violent. Violet. Although I'm going to rename her to Violent. I actually kind of want to go into the files and change it to Violent right now. But all right, that'll carry on. The UI enhancement really makes it difficult to cover stuff up, which makes it a little difficult, but I will manage. Okay, we got a little glimmering for my trouble. Oh, that's right, I can't stack them. That's gonna make things complicated, actually. Mystique, there's my imagination, and we made some money. So we're gonna go right back to painting. This time we'll use both the notoriety and the Mystique. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna pay for it, but I'm still gonna do it. So notoriety and Mystique. We'll paint away our restlessness again, and I will eventually raise up my painting skill, but I'll have a few other things to do before that. All right, Elopoli describes how he came to make repeated visits to a dreamwood via what he calls silver dreams. Trying to think your way to the wood, he explains, is like thinking your way to being in love. But I did find a secret that helped. We've got the barber's warning. A power of the wood enjoys the separation of the lock from the scalp. For attention, burn it. For opportunity, bury it. Okay. And we've got some erudition if I want to do anything about that. Let's think a little bit about where I'm going with the rest of these. So there's my restlessness I'm going to need to deal with. Let's start by stacking up that glimmering. The tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. If I spend time studying what I've learnt, I could work towards increasing my passion. It's more restlessness, but we'll deal with that. And in the meantime, let's dream of passion. The moonlit road. I know this dream. A road crests a hilltop, and the air is silver bright. If I engage in an occult practice before I sleep, I might find the way to a deeper dream. Now, of course, Christopher Elopoli already told us there's a tip, but the Thrycene way. I could cut a lock of hair before I sleep to honor the power of the wood. And we won the auction, so we've got a collection of poetry. Not the most pressing need that I have, but also not a terrible one to keep in my pocket. So can't do Gildersleeve's grammars, so let's go back to Oriflamme's. I mean, I am going to start running out of money, but I'd rather start getting a library in place. The War of the Roads, 1450 to 1580 censored edition. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in a history other than our own, in detail, but numerous pages have been removed. The name of the publisher is blacked out, and an ominous slip stapled to the cover explains that Willis Ford has been excised. Alright, now I don't think there's a way of actually delaying the... I think there's a way of delaying this to keep me from getting nabbed by the investigators, but I'm gonna make a shot of it anyway. So we'll let the counter tick down. And again, I'm almost certain this is a waste of time because there's gonna be the mystique which extends the investigation anyway. But we'll run with it nonetheless. And of course, we're doing this mostly to get rid of the restlessness. As it happens, you know, the wrong kind of tension. The city is rife with journalists, detectives, and other meddlers. How long will they leave me in peace? Ah. Well, it's... Okay, there we go. Someone is meddling. And there is our new War of the Roads. I think I'm going to add this to the lore stack. Keep going to Oriflamme's. And seeing as people are already on to us. Let's go talking about forbidden matters. A sacrifice of pain. The hour we serve requires pain. I must give of myself. There are more windows into my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. Use a lesson learnt with your imagination skill. Well, the imagination skill is currently occupied, but this will become helpful in just a minute. I'm not quite going to study yet. There's other reasons. Hey, more unhappy far off things, because why not? I'm still going to risk. Oh, my first recruit. A cult with one member is only an unusual habit. I must have a recruit. Violet, you're up. The Thrycene Way. The road ducks into the trees. Pale wings move deep into the wood. I am stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours, to avoid the low branches. The moon passes behind the black leaves, though her fingers remain in my hair. I will not forget the way to this place. So I've got my barber's warning back. We've got a buzzing in the brain. Exhausted passion, although that's going to be where my imagination goes, and we've now found a way to the wood. I suppose I will put that by the dream slot. I'm not so sure about this new layout, but I'm going to try and make it work. I think this is going to be my new rule, which is I'm going to attempt a new layout each game, but in addition, I'm actually going to keep myself to whatever layout, and if there's problems with it, I need to work around them rather than completely transform it. So, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials, RK and JL. Hello, weary detective. This gentleman would much rather be left alone with his pipe and his illustrated London news. But no, apparently some conjurer of abominations has to be hunted down like a mad dog, and apparently nobody else could find the time. He'll become Douglas soon enough. Okay. You've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Okay, so contentment, bunch of mystique because I am a mysterious and powerful individual, and no glimmering. So let's take a quick second and read whatever is to hand. This will give me a chance to use the erudition. We'll wait for old and happy far off things to produce another restlessness to deal with to paint with that, and we've gained our new book. And while we're at it, let's go through the way to the wood. Now I pass between the scar-barked trees. The moon passes behind branches, though her fingers remain in my hair. I am stumbling over roots now. It is tempting to drop to all fours to avoid the low branches. Pale wings move deep in the night. I've learnt the path to the wood, the tangled darkness that grows around the walls of the mansis. Though the mansis has no walls, I can dream with this to return to the wood. Let's go again. I'm just going to keep going back to Oriflammes until I have another alternative. Old Unhappy Far Off Things has delivered our creative material, let's say. So we'll take our notoriety and we'll add some mystique. You know what? I'll add oh, this is the lowest mystique. And we will throw, I know the UI's covering it, so this should have an impact. Our rise begins. I founded my cult. This is a step to a greater power. Use your cult to recruit and promote followers. Talk to followers about your cult to send them out on cult business. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put my followers sort of in the row. Actually, I'm going to put them on top of the lore columns. We'll see if that works. I've gained an injury for my trouble. There's the knife secret again. We have a temporary headquarters. Our business is private. We could use somewhere more secret. Actually, that should be part of my aspect. And the Church of the Bright Edge, an occult society dedicated to the hours of struggle and conquests. All right. Let's just take a look. Okay, everything's spinning, so I'm happy with that. Trysts and interludes. I have a particular. If I have a particular friend, now is the time to renew our connection. You know, I've never done a romantic, anything in the game. I should probably learn that. An introduction to the histories. The 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hirschfeld describes divergent incidents in 5 major histories. I found someone who may be a kindred spirit, but I'll need to win them over. And, oh, looks like we... Okay, I'm going to need a minute to bring the passion in. We'll put the money in for the colors of the night. And there's the passion. All right, colors of the night. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. All right, I've won the auction again, so we've gained introduction to the histories. This is very inconvenient to have the plus 25% on the UI, because I know, like, it's hard for other people to read it, but it actually covers up all the stuff that I need. Gotta take off. Good luck on a successful culting, System Chalk. No problem at all. Again, guys, if you like Cultist Simulator stuff, do check out Cool Eagle. He doesn't do it as regularly as I do, but he definitely celebrates the He definitely celebrates the arrival of new cultist content, and I know everybody's really looking forward to the new DLC with an undisclosed release date. So, whenever it comes out, lend him your ears and eyes, because he actually streams with it. He is confident enough with his handsome face, although he is taken, ladies, so don't get any ideas. But yes, he's brave enough to actually show himself. Well, okay, it's not bravery in his case, but for most. He is capable of showing himself. Alright, I'm going to exercise the mind. I have picked up odd facts here and there. If I spend time studying what I've learnt, I could increase my reason. And why not go back to Oriflammes? I mean, there's other things that I can do now because Violet's a believer. I can get her to go and try and find another location. But I do still have enough money to do other things. So, more Mystique. Another Glimmering, which is what I was looking for. But this... Oh, I've just got enough on that Glimmering. I need to be really quick on the pause button, but it'll work. Okay, we got some money. I don't have anything to paint about now, but I kind of need to get an income going, so... Okay. So I've got a peculiar rumor, which I could use to actually, that won't hurt the painting. It'll definitely cause the weary detective to start suspecting me, but I think now is a good time for me to start building up my followers. So we'll do the peculiar rumor. While I was returning to the depths, when I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we will recognize each other in the waking world. So this is something that I'll use with Explore. Passion is exhausted. I think I said I was keeping these beside the dream tile. So I can't do anything with dreaming. Oh, sorry, that's not true. I can heal my injury. Again, I'm short on money, but healing injuries is usually a good idea. We can get on the white. Solomon Husher writes, perhaps allegorically of winter and its long, slow, doomed romance with the sun. The epigraph is sunset at noon. Oh, Jesus! I almost forgot. We do have restlessness. Okay, spend money on Colors of the Night. Come with me. We've got a new recruit, potentially. And behold, we have a hanger-on, currently with hanger-on without portfolio. All right, let's get them in. This one is ready. Usefully malleable, but they'll probably never amount to much. You may be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. All right. I really do need to start working through my stacks. Let's use the peculiar rumor before it goes away. Now, this isn't going to change my, this isn't going to change the outcome for me. So as it turns out, it's a season of visions. But of course, if I had a season of suspicion coming up, that might mean that I wind up with, the weary detective getting some evidence against me. But in this case here, I do want to grow out the cult, so we'll track down the rumor. I suspect that at the end of the story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. Alright, my recent work is considered significant. So, I definitely wanted the glimmering. Ooh, we've got quite a bit of glimmering, actually. So, first thing I want to do is stack up the glimmering, then I can worry about any other... I can worry about any of the other details. For now, we'll just keep painting mood pieces. It's the study. Well, okay, the study I'm a little bit less worried about, but I feel like this is a good time for me to start converting some of this glimmering into upgrades. So, my mind, the library. I've gained reason, but next time it'll be more difficult to gain reason. That's not exactly what the wording says, but... Alright, before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread. And it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. I feel like that might be a typo. I need to see the exact wording on that. By the way, I don't think violet is actually edge. Violet is winter. Alright, we've now got a pawn. This one is loyal, but lacks initiative. And currently we don't have anybody else for the cult, but we'll deal with that later. We're healing, so I think I'm going to talk about forbidden matters. Violet is winter, violent is edge. Okay. I'm gonna do something a little silly here. I'm not actually gonna lock this in, but just give me a quick minute here. I don't know if I have a dark view available. You should be able to set this. I don't really just go for default settings on programs like this, but I know people complain a lot when I put white material on the screen. I actually, because I generally get annoyed when people just straight up demand stuff, so I showed some like stuff on Google. And somebody gave me a, completely unbidden, had never said anything before, went into my private messages and gave me like a plugin to always keep Chrome in like the incognito mode. And I'm like, I know what you're trying to say, but you said it in such an off-putting way that I now categorically refuse to do anything like that. I also actually don't mind white screens. I understand that like programmers have a preference for it. I'm just not, I've never really felt that uncomfortable with it. But yeah, basically because this is what the, because I really don't like it when people do that, apparently everybody else needs to suffer. So I will find a suitably grim color scheme for all of you. I have no idea. Apparently, I don't know how to use Notepad++. I have no idea if there's like a zoom function. Yes, there is. And it's actually not that hard to use. So there we go. Yeah, the light mode is awful, has gotten to be a kind of meme, despite the fact that customizable theming is actually often a quite useful accessibility feature. Yeah, like I could completely understand somebody saying, hey, just so you know, this is the effect of you doing that. But like, you know, I'm a top tier dev, and I just cannot stand the fact that your preferences are different than mine. That's the sort of thing where I'm like, okay, I am going to be affected by your words, but I'm going to be affected the way that you don't want me to. Anyways, that aside. So if I wanted to do, I could do, so I'll say violent. And see, this is the recruitment. So the nice thing here is that if you think about it, right, there's already a recipe for leveling up Violet A to Violet B. So instead of changing the ID, we'll just retain this and we'll update. Oh, wait. It'd be nice if I put the N in the right place, right? Okay, Mortal Follower Winter, so we'll just change that to Edge. Da-da. All right, I believe that would be our full conversion. And so if you ever felt that there weren't enough Edge followers in the game, here's roughly an idea about how you might go about that. This is obviously a very silly thing, but if you're wondering how I did that, if you're wondering how I did that image in, still too big. Yeah, like this is how I normally like this, and I realize everybody would be furious with me if this is how if this is how I did it in the normal game. Anyways, so if you are ever wondering how I did that, like, you know, the secretist lore thing on Twitter a while ago, all of the files that, so like this is Violet and got the aspect winter. I didn't save this, by the way, so this is not going to change anything, and I believe you need to reload the game. But if you ever want to play around like that, it's actually very straightforward to go into the game and change things. There's also, so what Lyrozyter, this is the new addition to the Weather Factory team, they've actually made a series of tools to help people mod Cultist Simulator. I've personally not played any Cultist Simulator mods. If you have ones that you'd like to recommend, I'm certainly very interested in hearing about them. But yeah, it's just kind of neat. Like, this game was built so that if you wanted to go and muck around with it, you can. I have no idea how much this has really been taken advantage of. But the fact that they did this also allowed things like the Frangiclave to be made available. So that's kind of nice. Yeah, turning somebody to a 10 winter. I needed to double check that before I changed anything. Anyways. The Tigers of Wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. If I spend time studying what I've learnt, I could work towards increasing my passion. So again, I mean, all I really did here was just try to knock in that extra glimmering, but they're sometimes hard to get when, you know, when you're trying to go for large amounts of glimmering, it does really make the difference if you can keep one around. So I'm not going to feel too ashamed about what I did there. Let's go back through the wood. We've got the passion to spare. All right, more money on the colors of the night. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. A rote effort. Honestly, I'm only going through the motions. The quality of my work will no doubt suffer. There's nothing to be ashamed of here, even though it was a rote effort. Alright, an unpromising address, but a promising resident. We've got Porter, an acquaintance. Porter was a barber until the court case. Nothing else to be said. Alright, I think I said I was going to get Violet to go explore the city, and then I failed to deliver, so we'll work on that. We've got our Course of the Heart. Whenever the principle of heart is implicated, I may gain vitality. So apparently this is the season of upgrades. I may earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. I probably should have reconsidered how I'm handling... Well, you know, I never actually committed to where all the mystique and all of that goes. So let's say that, like last time, this is going to go beside... this is going to go beside the detectives and whatnot. I'll probably regret this because I'm going to have so much to, like, drag across the table, but that's life. Do I want to wait the 16 seconds or not? Season of Sickness is coming up next, so as much as I would like to keep painting, I think I like the idea of upgrading my lore more, so... Did a similar run and ended up in jail? I mean, it's not that hard to avoid jail, I don't think. I usually just make sure that... So it's a little bit like that answer I gave earlier. You kind of need to think about what your top priority... So this is the same as like Stellaris, right? So in Stellaris I said, okay, you know, we're next door to Marauders. Marauders can potentially spawn the Great Khan. Now, what do I want my immediate reaction to be in that case? Well, let's go kill the Marauders. But the fact of the matter is that the Marauders are... they're really strong, and I don't have an effective way of dealing with them. So that's off the table, but I know that the intermediate... Like, my ultimate goal is... Okay, my ultimate goal is to win, but... Let's say a longer term goal is, okay, I need to get rid of the Marauders because it will spawn a particularly powerful event that will take me out. Because I'm not able to do that at the point, I take some other midway point, which is I need to invest in military upgrades, and I need to be able to invest in industrial capacity to be able to build a fleet that will actually be able to take on the Marauders, and so on and so forth. It's the exact same with the Weary Detective. If you start seeing your notoriety stack up, notoriety, like most of the things in the game, including Dread, is not an unambiguously bad thing. Notoriety is actually what will allow you to make quite a bit of money with painting. What you need to be sure of, though, is that when the Weary Detective comes calling and they start gaining some evidence on you, you need to make sure that you're able to find a way to mitigate that. And you essentially get at least 2 warnings in terms of what's coming up. You get your tentative evidence, you get your damning evidence, and if you're really unlucky, the 3rd time, they come directly for you. In reality, you're probably going to lose a follower. But let's just say, for the sake of the argument, that they immediately come straight for you. You have got several options available to you to deal with that. You can try and exterminate the investigator. If you don't feel confident in terms of doing that, you can try and do a charm offensive to get rid of the notoriety, and so it no longer gives them a reason to try and jail you. You can try and get one of your moth-oriented followers to try and get rid of the evidence. And of course, I'm very early on in this playthrough, so I'm not really going to want to try and sacrifice any of these followers on these very low probabilities, but that doesn't mean even if you have low-level followers, that doesn't prevent you from going and exploring and trying to find, trying to find somebody you can hire to take, to take out those targets for you, whether it's whether you take out the investigator or the evidence. And then, of course, you can also go to the Mansus and potentially get a favor from authority. So I'm not necessarily going to advocate one way over another, but that's a pretty long list of ways that you can mitigate investigators coming after you. And ultimately, it's more a matter of knowing that some of these are more likely outcomes than others. And so what you want to do is, once you start seeing the warnings that things are going to be going off the rails, you kind of want to have your game plan in place so that you can take advantage of multiple kicks at the can while you're waiting for that one opportunity to open up. And of course, because these things tend to get affected by different verbs, favor from authority tends to come from dreaming, where hirelings to deal with the evidence comes from exploration. You're able to sort of do a two-pronged attack if you really feel it's if you feel it's like your top priority. So that's, I try not to, again, my enjoyment of this game really isn't about, I never really think of this game as just a big stack of cards that I'm manipulating to try and get the ultimate playthrough with. In this case, I kind of just want to, I have a little bit of an idea now in terms of who this character is and sort of some of the actions I want to take inside the game. I have a rough idea of the ending that I'm going for, but I don't have I have not locked myself into this is the only way this story can end kind of a choice. So in my case here, sometimes it's just, things seem to be getting a little bit dangerous. Now I need to start working on this angle here. I don't always sit down and say, this is the best way for me to solve this particular problem. And it's the way I'm sort of wired. I enjoy the ride a little bit more than trying to, find the optimal strategy. But obviously other people will play differently. So we've got a buzzing in the brain, or we can visit the well or the Temple of the Wheel. And I almost always go to the well first, so this time we'll change it up and go to the Temple of the Wheel. Although I would have gotten Trembling Airs. I would have gotten another rumor. The toes tap, all is brisk and all is well. The wood beyond the walls of the Mansus, a jagged rock rears like petrified remnants of a dancing giant. I trailed my hand along its flank over the eye signs and lichen and the crude graffiti of the lesser wood powers, and I felt the thrumming of the wheel which has passed. It has passed, but something continues. And we've got our wood back. So this will be kind of nice because we've got vitality here. We are sick, but the Trembling Airs should decay into vitality as well, so I might be able to raise up my level. Okay. So one problem with this format that I've got is I don't have good places for my glimmering. I'm just going to wind up moving them to the side like this, but I've now got enough locations that, Street Strange by Moonlight can move to the side, but obviously in terms of locations. Also, now that I think of it, Temporary Headquarters is a location, so that should go there. Obviously I can't put my glimmerings on a big stack like this, so it makes things a little more complicated. I might just move them above. Actually, that sort of works, but not really. That's roughly consistent with the spirit of the exercise, if not the law. I also think I'm going to run out of space for my lore, so I might need to slightly adjust here. Of course, I've got a huge stack of books, but that's a little bit like life anyway, so let's go back to Oriflammes. Now, the challenge with Oriflammes is that it's potentially the most expensive place to get books, because you wind up spending a lot of time there, and there's no guarantee that it's only going to cost one wealth, one funds. But in this particular case, I've got 16 still, and I can generate more with my higher level of passion. So I'm not really panicking about this yet, and I think Moorlands will be sort of my poor man's option. I'm going to be able to save one of this glimmering, but... Stumm! A can of nitrate film labeled Stumm, silent, or perhaps mute. The director's name, Jernik Krosse, is shakily appended. Season of Despair coming up. The auctioneer makes a note of my name and signals one of the attendants. I have my prize. I hope it was worth it. Let's go back. Alright, so we've got a new acquaintance. We also have a ton of mystique to work with. Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra has been found not guilty 3 times in 3 separate jurisdictions. She will likely never be found guilty of anything. By the way, I don't think I read Violet's text afterwards, so Violet likes to paint. She has a gift, though she's always been very modest about it. She never puts human figures in her paintings. There are enough people in the world. So, let's bring Rhaenyra into the fold. This one is ready. Oop. So, feed my imagination fiercer. We've now got a wild imagination and a little extra passion to show for it. So I'm only going to be able to do this with 2 of the glimmering here, but that's fine because this is still going to put us ahead. I'm now going to take my wild imagination. We will take the notoriety and 1 of the expiring mystique. And in terms of... well, I could use the glimmering. Let's use the glimmering as inspiration because that'll preserve it. Alright, The Humours of a Gentleman, Samuel Savage's satirical comedy on the intrigues of the ailing but cunning John Sun, his mistress Mavelyn, her lover Leo, and the upstart Corvino. Moving right along, I can choose to try and upgrade my... You know what? I think I am going to try and go for the upgrade, so I'll spend the money here. Not my wisest choice, because I am running a little short, but we'll spend money to make money here. And I'll see if I can use my vitality to gain the extra health. Another bidder. Someone else has matched my bid. I must match it with more funds or forego my prize. So in 15 seconds I should be able to upgrade my health. My recent work has accrued modest fame, so we'll add the mystique, because that is what we do. And I do have the 2 glimmerings, so this is going to be a little tricky to manage. I'm going to paint again, and we'll sort of throw the same elements inside, but in this case I'm actually going to preserve the vitality. The reason I'm letting this go is because I'm going to be able to double up the glimmering in 5 seconds. So essentially I'm just making these plays to try and preserve some of the elements that I want to keep around. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Alright, we've gained the Humours of a Gentleman. I'm going to put Stumm to the side because Stumm actually requires a special event. Not an event, but I need to do something extra for that. And I feel confident enough that I will be able to win another auction, so we'll carry on with that. Alright, there are more windows in my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. So here we'll double up the glimmering. Now, if I want, this is a really good time for me to use the book, but we'll see what glimmering is available after the painting. Okay, this is Traveling at Night Volume 2, the annotated dream journals of Christopher Lopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist, literate, entertaining, bewildering. This is the second volume. JFC Fuller, thank you very much for the follow. I trust you are here for Cultist Simulator. Did you start playing the game recently, or are you just a big fan of the game? Assuming you like talking in chats. Also, I should probably be careful. I mentioned a few people from the Imperator streams during the last oh hell, what's the game's name? Daggerfall stream, and I don't think that was appreciated because I wound up losing like 5 followers. I know people don't like being called out, so assuming you do like participating in chat, I'd love to know what brought you to the game. You played about a year ago, loved the game, never finished it. That's actually surprisingly common. Let me just take a minute here. We'll look at the global achievements. I believe the most likely victory condition in the game is the Enlightenment. Okay, well, technically it's corner office, but yep, thine be the glory. So out of people who have played the game, 4.3 have gotten to what would sort of be considered a standard ending. So you are in very good company in terms of not finishing the game. If you played it a year ago, I will definitely say that the game is quite different. They've added a lot. There are now new headquarters. There's the Dancer DLC did add a new legacy, which you do need to pay for. Now it's only like in Canada it's like a $3 DLC, so it's definitely not going to break the bank. But alongside of it, they added things like romance. So there's even some free features that were added in alongside with that patch. So if you still have a little bit of a leaning towards the game, I definitely recommend that you pick it up, even if you don't play through to like the very end again. They've definitely taken some of the feedback that was given to the game in terms of things that people were struggling with, and it's definitely improved. I think if Sean's still in chat, he can definitely talk about some of the things that didn't quite work for him, but I think have improved over the time. I was kind of already sold on this game like long before it came out, but I'm also not going to say that it was, you know, there were definitely some things where you were just kind of looking at doom slowly rolling towards you and there's nothing you could do about it. That was always a little tough to work with. So talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that's what I want. And you've kept an eye on the patches. Hope it isn't too easy now. I don't think anyone would say the game is too easy, but who knows? I mean, like, the thing is that I can't go back to the first encounter with Cultist Simulator anymore. That was well over a year ago for me. I don't really I think the thing is that once you know how the things work in the game, it by necessity is easier. But then that's also why the game is so hard to win in the first place. That it's, you know, learning is the ultimate roguelike. You know, it doesn't need to be like Risk of Rain or Binding of Isaac, where you gain a new item to make the game a little bit easier as you keep playing. In the case of Cultist Simulator, you learn more about how things work, or you learn sort of patterns of behavior that lead you towards insights. You know, when I was making some serious progress in terms of the 1.0 version that was released on Steam, I hit a lot of blocks, but having worked through those blocks, I definitely had a certain way of thinking about Cultist Simulator problems in a way that I don't think... It's almost a little bit like math. Like, I've gone from a level of math where I did not appreciate that the square root and the square of things were inverse operations to, you know, doing an advanced degree in a very mathematical subject. So it's really just a matter of sort of learning a particular perspective, and that's what makes the game easier. I think the only thing that I could say unambiguously made the game easier is that they added a new thing to get rid of fascination. I think a lot of people said that fascination really was a killer, and they had trouble getting rid of it, so they added another thing that gets rid of fascination. But I'd love to know if your experience of the game is that it's a little too easy now. It would be the first I'd heard it, but that doesn't mean that that's wrong. Alright, the Forge of Days waits in my dreams. If I learn the Forge's lore, I can dream of this temptation. I can advance my purpose. The need gnaws at me. So it gives me something to paint. The sick room grows close and stale. It's time to get up. And I think it's also time to go through the wood. Right, we've won the auction. I have yet another copy. Well, not yet another copy. I have another copy of Traveling at Night. Oh, I've already read my copy of Traveling at Night, though. But still, it's wrong not to have Christopher and Teresa apart, so we'll put them together on the bookshelf. Ah, well done, Pax. If you want to share the details, feel free to do so, but I am definitely not well-versed enough in... obviously, I know the factions that you mentioned, but I'm definitely not well-versed enough in the game to say whether or not I approve of your deck. I'm just going to assume that it's a really good one. All right, dump truck a Mystique, just because this is how we roll now. And my notoriety, which is the real moneymaker. Valken to you, you're back from Borderlands hype. How did that go? Somebody was saying that there was something unusual at the start. I didn't really get an impression as to whether or not it was a good thing or a bad thing at the start, but did something happen that I didn't know about? I mean, other than the gameplay of Borderlands. By the way, for those of you thinking of buying Borderlands 3, do feel free to use the Epic Store link down below. You can use the creator tag System Chalk. Put a little bit of money towards the stream. Actually, sorry to do this, but I'm mildly curious if they actually have a buy things from me oh, why are you doing this to me now, Epic? I really wanted to see whether or not they had a Borderlands link, but my two-factor authentication apparently is not actually delivering. Oh, here we go. Yes, I am actually putting the stream on hold to see if I can sell you things. Holy smokes, there's a lot of stuff available here now. They really don't have a Borderlands link? Wow. All right, fair enough. Well, when you buy Borderlands, be sure to use the System Chalk deck. But for those of you who are really excited about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, I used to have one with GOG. They canceled it, actually. So, yeah, there was actually a bit of nastiness between me and GOG, but it was sort of resolved. But I mean, yeah, that was actually kind of dumb. But basically what they did, so, I mean, it's well within GOG's rights to do that. And I'm still going to post, like, the interview I did with Weather Factory, on YouTube when I finally get the audio cleaned up. But essentially what GOG did was they basically killed the affiliate links with anybody who was a low earner, and that was almost everybody. So they but the catch with that was, for a while they declined to pay me the amount that was owed, and I did like a lot of emails back and forth with them until it was finally like, okay, just stop bugging us and we'll give you the money. So I'm obviously very happy that they did that, because that was not necessarily, it was not at all clear that that was how that was going to end. And they largely said, you know, to make sure that it ended on good terms. So, you know, with that in mind, I appreciate that they did ultimately. I think, well, the thing is like the email they said is they didn't really recognize my claims so much as they wanted to make sure that they ended on good terms. Which on a personal level, like, especially because I did have a very detailed record of exactly what the commitments and what the agreements were, I still don't like that perspective on the matter. However, because the dispute was the matter of the money and the money was settled, I do not have a source of complaint against them, and I am still sort of in touch with the people who are sort of running the, what's come to replace essentially what, like, the affiliate program's not really all that different, except that you don't get money from a link anymore. They will occasionally hook you up with keys if you ask. They've not actually given me a key since doing that, by the way. So maybe I'm just unpopular there, but they haven't actually formally cut the relationship. I don't know. And obviously I've been playing Imperator through Paradox's key and that. But yeah, it was the reason you didn't hear about the GOG stuff for a while was because I was trying to resolve that without without going ballistic, because I've seen some people who feel entitled to a key or something like that and behave like a brat, and it's really off-putting. So I wanted to do what I could to resolve the issue. I did actually mention the no payment thing. It's why I'm talking about it now, because it's clear that some people aren't aware that issue was resolved. So again, they did ultimately pay me, and I'm at least in contact with them still. But in practice, I haven't actually done something with GOG since those programs were closed. So yeah, well, that's just it. I have sort of talked myself into a corner on it, because it is now public knowledge that there was an issue with the payment. I don't think it's wrong to talk about the fact that there was an issue, so long as now I also say, and the matter was ultimately resolved. But it was about a month and a half after the actual deadline that they needed to get that final payment through. And they actually did take back some withholding tax, which I don't actually think was given to the Canadian government, but I still need to talk with CRA about that. So but yeah, so it was unfortunate, but it was, it was what it was. It is what it is. And if they would rather not have the relationship with me, that's totally fine. I mean, I don't do this for a living. But I will admit, I'm actually very happy with the Epic account. They let you know what the revenue streams from it are. I believe the developers actually set what the share is going to be. And I don't know, I got into the Division 2 beta. I'd actually bought the Division 2 off of that. So obviously some people have hangups about using the Epic Store, and I'm not going to tell people, use this, but I'm doing the Epic thing for the same reason I did the GOG thing. I'm looking for an alternative to the Steam Store. I think the Epic Store is a really interesting choice. I'm quite encouraged by its existence, and I know a lot of people don't like its existence. And if I can make some of that mad Fortnite money when people use it, I'm happy to take it. But obviously don't feel obligated. Honestly, the best way to support any streamer that you like is just give them the money directly. But if you are buying something off the Epic Store, or if you are indifferent about your storefront and you want to put it in there, you can actually put the System Chalk creator tag in, and I will usually get a bit of money off of that. Although with that in mind, if you just want to take advantage of the free stuff too, I don't know what putting my name in does for you, but if you want to get a copy of Transistor, that's for free right now, and on May the 2nd, I believe World of Goo is coming out, so, or not coming out, but it'll come on again. Well, I'll put it to you this way, Valken. So this is related to, and how are you doing, the Eyes of Sin? I'm sorry, guys, to turn this into an infomercial, but isn't man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? So Valken raises a good point here. It is Epic's job to convince you that they have a storefront that is worth using. I did have a little bit of a problem getting the Division working when I first downloaded it. I do think they've done a reasonably good job of addressing the major problems when they come up. But the thing is that you probably shouldn't just buy something on the Epic Store because I say that I'm an affiliate with it.
The lack of better word is good.
Did I hear give money directly?
Thank you, Valken. That was not exactly what I meant by that, but I'm not going to say no to your money. Thank you very much for that. So, by the way, I'm actually I've been working on a blog on the Epic stuff in terms of like the consumer-friendly arguments that people are making, because I actually don't think they're very good arguments. But my view on it is this, like, my options for affiliate links are basically Humble Bundle, possibly Green Man Gaming. I'm not even considering I will never consider G2A. I actually consider it a slight against the streamer if they have a G2A link. So it's basically like Humble, Green Man, and I'm a little iffy on Green Man, if I'm totally honest with you. And the Epic Store. And ultimately, I like the Epic Store for my own reasons, which I will get into on a blog rather than the stream. But the big thing is that me liking the Epic Store gives you no information at all about whether or not that storefront is for you. It's Epic's job to convince you that it's a good storefront. And one of the ways that they're doing that is they're giving you free games every 2 weeks. So if you haven't taken advantage of the Transistor deal, Transistor's a good game. Like, go ahead and use that. If you want to use my link, go nuts. But even if you don't, like, just take the free game. That's what the Fortnite money is getting you. If you categorically refuse to put the Epic Store on, you know, that's totally fine. That's your choice. People felt that way about Steam when it came out too. Like, it's not really going to move the needle that much. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about the revenue shares. I know I'm not allowed to talk about my sales on the Epic Store. But like, the big thing is that a streamer at my size, it's never going to mean the difference between whether or not I make rent. It's a nice to have, and I like doing the affiliate links because they give me an opportunity to turn an action that somebody might have already taken into something that generates revenue for the stream, as opposed to that very nice thing that Valken did, which was to directly give money. Because obviously that's money that you've worked for, and it's completely reasonable for you to want to get something in exchange for that. And this stuff is free. It's always going to be free. I'm never going to say, okay, you have to sub to be able to watch the live cast. That I'm not that entertaining. But yeah, again, none of this should ever be because it's a System Chalk thing, you should put on a storefront that you don't want. I am perfectly happy with the Epic Store, but that doesn't mean that you have to be. You can hate them as much as you want. But what I will let you know, here's one thing I will let you know from a streamer's perspective. It's public knowledge because they wrote about it in the blog that the deal that Weather Factory had with Humble Bundle was that if they put Cultist Simulator in a bundle, that Humble Bundle did not need to pay any kind of share to Weather Factory. So if you got Cultist Simulator through the Humble Monthly, that money went to Humble Bundle, who published the game and gave them a non-recoupable advance. Weather Factory have been completely upfront in terms of why they took that deal, and a deal's a deal. What's the over-under on an itch.io affiliate link? Okay, so Sean, I'll be honest with you, I would love an itch.io affiliate link. I just think that most people ask for that stuff. Usually a lot of stuff on itch.io is already asking for a buy donation sort of thing, and I would feel kind of scummy if I was taking a percentage of an already voluntary donation. But yeah, I mean, if Itch puts up an affiliate link, I'd gladly sign up for that. I like Itch a lot. It's how I found this thing. But yeah, anyways, I did want to say this one thing. Here's one thing that I don't think is told enough about the Epic Store. So, you can go to the Weather Factory website, you can see why they took that deal, what they thought about it, everything is above board. And there's a lot of keys that went out for that Humble monthly thing. And as players, it's great because more people are playing the game, more people are aware of it, it's more people to share the game with. But what I will also let you know is that Humble, during that month, reached out to streamers like myself with a bunch of Cultist Simulator content and said, hey streamer, we noticed that you're doing some Cultist Simulator thing. We should let you know about our affiliate program, which will so and so. We have Cultist Simulator. It's a great opportunity for your viewers to buy this game, so on and so forth. Now, what Humble just did there was it took all of the outreach efforts that Weather Factory had put in, all of, some of you guys might have gotten keys from Weather Factory to stream this game. They took all of that effort that Weather Factory did to build a community of streamers that are covering the game, and in one email, they've attempted to convert that into something that will not generate revenue for Cultist Simulator, right? There's definitely resources that game developers put into streamer outreach. And essentially with one email, if you have a publishing deal like Weather Factory's with Humble Bundle, they can actually erase the gains from that. So, you think they do have some small affiliate program, but for reasons that you just said, you don't think it's too big. It's more a press copy thing than get a cut of sales thing. Yeah, I think, like, honestly, press copies are great. I play so many more games than I otherwise would have because of press copies. But yeah, now again, I want to be really clear about this. Humble is not necessarily doing anything wrong. They are acting in accordance with that contract. Weather Factory may or may not have factored that in at the time, but this is the thing. I don't think anybody who got that Humble monthly thought that Weather Factory was not getting paid for Cultist Simulator. I'm also willing to guess that there are people with that Humble affiliate link that said, and it's a great way to support the developers. Now that'll be true for other people who are not Humble partners, or at least who don't have contracts like what Weather Factory did. But in the case of that particular title, that was definitely not disclosed to anyone. It's Weather Factory that told us the terms of that contract. Now, this is also true of GOG. I did not know until I had my payment dispute with GOG that the affiliate link cut that they were taking out was after the 30% that they took from the developer. So there's what you pay for the game, there's the 30% that GOG takes for being the storefront. And in addition to that 30%, that's where my affiliate cut came from. In none of the contracts, and I'm the person getting the money, none of the contracts with GOG that I signed said that. I found out about that one because of the Star Control lawsuit, and then I read one of the contracts that game developer signs with GOG, and that's the provision that was in there. And then sure enough, when I was having the conflict with them, they communicated that, they verified as much. So the credit I will give the Epic Store is that they state to the streamer what the revenue share is. And there's actually an interview with Sergey Galyonkin, which basically says that, and I talked about this a little bit in one of the previous Epic Store blog posts, that the developer sets the revenue share. So if they want, they can put it at 0%. Right now, Epic is covering a certain percentage of that. So the developer kind of gets it for free for a while. And then in the end, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be determining my cut. And in the end, my decision to stream a particular game is likely going to be driven by whether or not I think there's a particular sale that I can make out of that. I really don't use that to decide what game I play. I usually play a game on the basis of that. So none of you should really have to care too much about this stuff. But just to give you an idea in terms of the status quo that maybe isn't immediately apparent to people, I would propose that the terms of the Epic the Epic Store are probably the most transparent out of the ones that I've considered. It's actually, if you are curious why I don't have that Humble link, it is for that very reason. Because while I don't think it's bad that people have Humble links, I don't really feel comfortable with the way that Humble Bundle kind of did that. Like, again, they're within their rights to do that outreach. I just think there's a difference between what you're allowed to do and what is the right thing to do. And I mean, again, it looks like it's a boilerplate email. I'm almost certain they do this with like every other game that's in the top, the top position. But, I think it's pretty clear that my loyalties lie with Weather Factory. And again, like, we're consumers, it's our job to just say, what are the terms that we want to buy a particular product? Where's the best price? What storefront? What features do I like the most? In the end, it's up to the developers to sign contracts that they feel treat them fairly and not to do business with people who do things that they're not comfortable with. But in the interests of maybe pushing back on some of the, some of the easy criticism of the Epic Store, and there are legitimate criticisms of that store, I will definitely say that it's not just a big show that they're doing in terms of developer-friendly practices. Like, it's not just the favorable revenue cut. It is really also in terms of like the way that they sell the games to people. I, as a streamer, am given very transparent terms on which I will be sort of earning something off of getting people to buy a game through my affiliate link. And ultimately, the developer is going to be the one that's determining what those rates are. And I think that's generally an appropriate way of handling that. So, anyways, obviously we had a lot more people in here a little while ago. I am sorry for those of you who really just come for the gameplay. I have a feeling that most of you already know what the deal is, but it came up, and it is still Cultist Simulator related, so I don't feel too bad about it. I walked the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and furred things crammed in my mouth. By the way, Eyes of Sin, I am happy to see you. I'm sorry, you seem to have gone very quiet after saying hello. For those of you who don't know the Eyes of Sin, take a look at these beautiful emotes. I hope you are well. You don't know, you're here for the discourse. I mean, you get it with both barrels, Sean. Like, if you have to work late, you have to listen to my opinions on everything on stream, and then you go to Dirty Rectangles, and as long as I am, like, within, 3 meters of you, like, you're never gonna get away. So. Oh, hang on. The second Machiavelli didn't come up. There we go. Yes, Valken to You is also sharing the other emotes that Eyes of Sin has done. Now, I like Octavian, so I won't call them the inferior emotes. I will just call them the other emotes. Anyways, I walked the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and the furred things crammed my mouth and swarmed my ears, and I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots. But I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now I could write it in full. Oh, Eyes of Sin has shown yet another emote that she's done. Okay, I think the answer here is if you run a Twitch channel and you were looking for some emotes, I don't know how busy Sin is in terms of commissions, but she's someone I can highly recommend. Or if you just want to pay her for art in general. I do know that she does commissions, and she works... So first of all, she works very fast, and she really does quality. So, I'll be honest with you here. If you were to be a patron of the Epic Store or the Sin Store, I would 100% recommend the Sin Store. I also don't get a cut from the Sin Store. Alright, we'll do a mood piece of Glimmering just so I can preserve it. If I can get the third level, then I should be able to upgrade my passion even higher. Well, you know what's even better, Sin? If you were to share with people a link to your portfolio and where they can hire you. De Oris in Latin, a 19th century reprint of a 14th century Latin translation of a 4th century work. Okay, so now what I need to do is mod Imperator to actually have a copy of De Oris in it. That's going to be my new project. Oh God! Actually, let's ride that thought. Mod Imperator Rome to have some of the secret histories inside of it. You could have the alternate story of Alexander. You could come up with some fun Rome stuff. There's a lot that you could do with that now that I think of it. Okay, so we are potentially getting the Orchid Transfigurations, Volume 1, 16th Century Alchemical Fever Dream. Don't we already have this? We have Volume 2, attributed to Robert Flood, frequently banned for the disturbing allure of its illustrations. This is in the original Latin. And we do have the ability to read Latin. I just need to actually crack open Gildersleeves. Like many of my econometrics textbooks, it is sitting unread. Colors of the Night. I could spend money on better paints, or perhaps I could find more exotic pigments. I've grown stronger, I've gained health, but it'll be more difficult to gain health next time. Well, we've already got 4, so I'm not too worried about that. Let's see if the glimmering shows up. Okay, the clouds part, the wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It is over for now. Alright, so we knew this was coming, the wrong kind of attention. They're going to gobble up as much mystique as they can. Eventually they'll find the notoriety. So at this point, I think I'm just going to wait it out. We will have to deal with some evidence, but we know what's going to be coming up. So this is a great opportunity for instance, Tall Man Alive. If you want to see how I handle an investigator causing trouble, this is basically going to be it. All right. Just 1 second here, because I have a feeling the Eyes of Sin is probably not going to... She's probably not going to... Oh, hey, there's a few things. I didn't know you had an Amazon list, so now I need to find some stuff to buy you on Amazon. So there is the Eyes of Sin's Tumblr. There's actually a picture of me sort of in there. Some people comment on a slightly different physical aspect of myself, but now the trick here is that it doesn't actually list. I don't believe it actually lists her email or her the ability to contact her for stuff. So if you go to this link here, this is her Twitch page. First of all, you get to see what she looks like because there's a couple of archive videos. But there will be a Discord. There will be there'll be a link for donations if you want to give her one of those. Her Twitter, and just in general, you get to see everything that she's up to. So there is my good deed of the day. Sorry, I realize that this has been like an hour-long infomercial, but some people are worth shouting out. And those people are the Epic Store and the Eyes of Sin. Anything that starts with an E, really. Alright, we got the Orchid Transfigurations. Let's go... I think I've got enough time, so I will do one more run on Oriflammes, and then I'm going to start my explorations. So... Alright, let's see what goodies we got. Regrettably, no glimmering. That's the one thing I was kind of hoping for. So we'll take another crack at it. This time I will paint my contentment. And here we are picking up the Burning of the Unburnt God, compiled by J. Wrigglesworth Jensen from Oral Traditions of Rural Persia. And we have discovered a patron. Count Jannings has entered the fray. And while we're waiting, let's bring Porter into the fold. This one is ready. Okay, so if I want another occult scrap, I've got it here. Alternatively, I can go to the well or the wheel. In this case, I think I'm going to go for this, the ordinary occult scrap, and this is just because I'm going to need a few places to investigate. So I'll go back through here. I walked in the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and furred things crammed in my mouth and swarmed my ears. I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots, but I remembered that I walk upright by day, and I know fire and steel and words. And at last, I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. Okay, so again, paying for the paints. I can probably afford to keep going to the wood at this pace. What's a cultist simulator? Puppies and Muscles ask. So, tell you what, I have no sense of humor. So if this is if this is not a genuine question, you're probably going to have to stop me because I go on a lot on these kinds of questions. But Cultist Simulator is best described as a narrative card game. It's by a newly formed indie studio. It's about a little over a year old, called Weather Factory. It's got two founders, Alexis Kennedy, whose credits include Stellaris. He did the event, not the Event Horizon, the Horizon Signal event chain. He also was creative director on Sunless Sea and the Fallen London browser game that was its inspiration. He also did a couple of other sort of side projects that didn't get realized, like he did some stuff for Telltale and apparently some stuff for a new Dragon Age game, though how much of it is included in the final game nobody knows, because technically that game is not a thing yet. And the co-founder is Lottie Bevan, who's another Fail Better alumnus. In this case, credits would be Fallen London as well as Fallen London, but also Sunless Sea. Sunless Sea's a Mariner. She's a producer on that. Producer for part of Sunless Skies, but left that to come and work at Weather Factory and has now contributed writing as well as art and producing and basically everything inside of the game. But that's who made it. Like I said, it's a narrative card game, so what makes this game sort of interesting, and I realize that the resolution I'm playing at makes it hard to see these cards, but essentially what this game does is it breaks up this person you're playing. I've chosen to play Lord Bullingdon, who is a bright young thing. All these different aspects of your life are represented in individual cards, and if you think about how you would define yourself, you'd probably start with the obvious. For instance, your flesh. This is my body, there are other bodies, but this one is mine, and my mind needs it as a fungus needs soil. You might go the Cartesian route and say, I think, therefore I am. No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality, Shirley Jackson. This is my reason. This is my capacity to sort of work my way through sort of problems logically. You might also consider yourself to be your passion, your ability to maybe think a little bit more creatively or to make these leaps of logic. But as you started getting into more, especially if you dealt with maybe like a philosophy major or something like that, it's like, yeah, but who are you? Maybe you'd start considering yourself as your possessions, either your material wealth or perhaps some of the books that you own, and these ones are particular bits of lore. You might consider yourself your relationships, either relationships with mentors or friends, or potentially nemesis. Currently, we've got the weary detective after us. This gentleman would much rather be left alone with his pipe and his illustrated London news. But no, apparently some conjurer of abominations has to be hunted down like a mad dog, and apparently nobody else can find the time. Finally, you are also your reputation, which is going to be something that brings the weary detective after me. So this game sort of breaks breaks this character up into a bunch of small little aspects, and the game also gives you verbs to sort of interact with. So there's work, explore, study, dream, and talk. And effectively what this game is, at its core, it's about the fact that everybody sort of has something inside them that they want to do, or this thing that, you know, is potentially their legacy, or it's their passion, or there's lots of different ways that people sort of articulate this. Some people really want to make a game, and it doesn't even matter if it never gets seen. They want to express their creativity that way. Some people want to direct a movie or write a play. Some people really enjoy solving math problems. Essentially, it is that thing that maybe, I suppose if you were to take like a Joseph Campbell kind of quote for it, you following your bliss or whatever. But we also deal with the fact that the world is very harsh to people who only exist inside that realm. You have to go to a job, and generally your job does not give a damn as to whether or not you have creative ambitions or not. And as A Pill of Winds puts it, this game is fucking awesome, to quote them. So perhaps that's the better review of the game, but I'm already locked into this explanation. So welcome, by the way. So yeah, I mean, if that's kind of the core of what the game is about. You are an individual who has sort of been given a glimpse at this other world that exists just beneath the skin of this one. And you are granted these little glimpses at it. In this case, I've got, you know, the barber's warning, a red secret, and a cult scrap. And I also am using this to upgrade, or to bring somebody into the cult. I've got a knife secret, which I've chosen to found my cult on. And my cult is called the Church of the Bright Edge, an occult society dedicated to the hours of struggle and conquest. Now, the thing about this game is that, you know, if you are confused by some of these terms being thrown around, join the club. There's no Building Cults for Dummies book. You can't go to chapters. Sorry, that's a Canadian book chain for those of you who are not in Canada. You can't go to a bookstore and pick up some like how-to guide in terms of, you know, mysteries beyond which human comprehension, you know, can't handle, or something like that. You need to look at these tantalizing fragments that come in the world of Dream, or come through reading the works of other people who've been there, or watching the films. Storm. And you take these glimpses and you put them together into a larger picture. And that is manifested in the game both literally through getting more powerful cards, but also through the fact that you start learning patterns, and you start sort of getting hunches in terms of how these things are related to each other, and you come up with new combinations of putting the cards together. But ultimately, what's called a simulator, it's essentially a story game that deals with, you know, trying to be an extraordinary individual in a world that really just wants you to be like everyone else. And it's a really special game. There's really nothing like it. Mechanically, it's a little bit like a clicker or an idle game. Very, very not like any other card game that you'll play. But if you ever liked something like Sunless Sea, if you tend to like reading, if you like the sort of thing that doesn't hold your hand, and if you're the sort of person who liked trying to figure out the lore of Dark Souls by reading the items, this game is right up your alley. And there's also a mobile version of it too. So if you're not inclined to play it on PC, you can now play it on tablets and cell phones. Hey, Dr. Frankenvinder, that's wonderful news to hear. Let me just take a quick second to catch up in anybody in chat, because I got a pillow of winds. Tall Man Alive, I'm from a country with hundreds of cults, so this game feels so real to you. You write books that nobody reads. I can't remember what country you're from, Tall Man Alive. And Pax Sicilia, well, yes, Pax Sicilia is going to know. I know of it as chapters. I don't know if that was the Western chain or the Eastern one, but yes, Indigo is the parent company, I believe. It was a really roundabout way of saying that this is a card game with great flavor text mixed with spinning plates. Yeah, that's the reductive version, but I feel bad describing it that way. Turkey originally USA, so both. Yes. Actually, that was one of the things. If you go into the archive of Cultist Simulator talking about, of Weather Factory talking about this game, they actually do talk about the difference between a British interpretation of cults, where you think of like Aleister Crowley or like the Shriners or something like that, or like the Freemasons or whatever you know, that kind of thing, which is largely like, or like the Stonecutters from Simpsons or something like that. Like, it's not the sort of thing which has this overwhelmingly sinister aspect to it. And then you have something like the US where you're thinking of these figures like David Koresh or something like that. And it's clearly, this is clearly not a game about, you know, bamboozling people out of money. Well, I mean, you can bamboozle people out of money, but like, it's not your followers that you do that to. It's definitely not about like trying to bring about some kind of a revolution, or, you know, it's not some grand suicide pact or something like that. It's definitely very British in its tone, because of course Weather Factory is a company from the UK. Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife so that it can separate a drifting thread, and it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Porter plies his razor and his scissors to the great advantage of his friends. All right. By the way, now that I have a nice monitor, I did not realize that Porter is like wearing a turtleneck. It looks handsome on him. All right, let's get back to culting. Ideally, I'll get another glimmering just so I can double it up. I might even try painting with the lesson learned. But I have a few options available. Oh, I actually might have to paint for the old and happy far off things before that happens. We'll see what comes up. So I'm not going to use the study quite yet. Okay, what are we looking at? Okay, I'm going to have 2 restlessness to deal with. That'll limit my options. Just dump this all in. We did get another glimmering. That's great news. So, first things first, we'll double these guys up. I will deal with... I do not have old, unhappy, far off things yet. So, in preparation, and again, this is also to just try and keep the notoriety set aside for now, I'm going to paint with these. So essentially what I'm doing here, just to give you guys, also if you start playing this game, say goodbye to your weekend. Also, many restful sleep has been lost to this game. You never know, this might be a living. So to give you guys an idea, especially for those of you who are new to the game, essentially what's happening here in terms of representation with cards, I'm using my imagination, and I'm using notoriety and mystique. I'm doing a painting, and in this case, I'm sort of leveraging the fact that I'm already known, both in terms of good and, you know, a bit of a dangerous reputation as well. I'm leveraging that to bring attention to my work, and I'm ultimately trying to make a living doing that. I have no idea whether or not this is specifically intended as like a gaming reference, but obviously, you know, this is probably not unlike what I'm assuming a lot of indie developers need to do, which is they need to sort of bank on a reputation in order to actually be able to make any money doing their creative activity. I'm not entirely sure that's what the game's trying to say inside here, but it's probably the most ready analogy I can come up with. Although we do actually have some real game designers inside the channel, so they can probably tell me if I'm just talking nonsense or not. I'm always happy for book recommendations, Dr. Frankenvender. I'm really far behind. I'm actually, by the way, I'm reading a really interesting book right now. It's called Bad Blood. It's by John, I think it's John Carreyrou. He's the Wall Street Journal reporter who actually broke the Theranos story. If you guys have not heard about Theranos, it is a very wild story. I might actually switch out. I'm gonna run this timer out to the bitter end, and then we'll see what we can get. Okay, this is Kerner and Goetz, Greek translation. Anyways, so John Carreyrou was the one who broke the story, who kind of pointed out a lot of the suspicious elements of that company, and essentially it's his account of it. I'm probably at the halfway mark. It is a really good book, and again, like any good books, there is sort of there's the words that are written on the page, and then there's the implication, which is, I don't know if this is like Carreyrou just hedging his bets, or if this is just sort of it being left for the reader, but I'm sort of getting an idea in terms of, and maybe unexpected effect of the looser monetary policy that the United States took in response to the 2008 financial crisis. There's a couple of really interesting implications, I think, inside the book, and it's really interesting that, like, I never thought of it that way, but it's an inescapable conclusion now that I've looked at the book, and yeah, I'm having a great time with it. Like, it's a fascinating read. It's really hard to find in the library right now. Like, everybody's got it out for some reason. Well, because it's a good book, but yeah, I'm finally like back into reading regularly, so I have no idea if I'd be able to get to something like that on time, but I always love people's recommendations, because it's also neat to see what people think I like. So you know that stuff before it came out? Yeah. Like, it's kind of an open secret in some ways, but it's like I only really found out about it after sort of all the, like, after the thing was already done, but then I'd never heard of Theranos before. So Red Rising, it's a little bit halfway through and it's marvelous. Okay, I'm definitely interested. What's it about, Frankenvinder? So I might run into some trouble with this other Old Unhappy Far Off Things, but we'll see what I can do with it. The trick that I have right now is that I'm going to have 3 Glimmering Lessons Learned. So I can put those as an input into upgrading my imagination. The catch is that this restlessness is probably going to expire before I'm able to fully upgrade the... I think I can afford to get more notoriety. It's going to be dicey, but when I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think we will recognize each other in the waking world. So the plan here is I'm still going to use this for exploration, and the idea is that I know at some point the wary detective is going to find the notoriety. I'm going to use the peculiar rumor to get another individual. Following that, I'm going to try and get somebody to deal with the evidence. So. Ah, neat. That definitely sounds like something I'd like. Okay, Kerner and Goetz is mine. I don't think I'm going to go to the auction house right away. I think I'm actually, well, I need to use the rumor, so let's track that down to begin with. That'll give me notoriety, but I'm already going to have notoriety. That's just that's a fact of life. So, okay, decision time. I am going to do something that is going to be dangerous as heck, but I think this is going to work. I've got my contentment. Let's paint again. It would be brilliant if I could have waited a minute for that, but I can't, so I won't. We will take our earliest expiring Mystique, so we'll start this up. So this neutralizes the restlessness. Thing is, I'm pretty sure this painting will be done before the 63 seconds, and so I can sort of have everything. How's the run gone? I mean, I've spent too much time monologuing. That's kind of true all the time. But it's worked pretty well. I mean, we actually wound up with an early illness before our dad died, so it was definitely a lot more dicey than it should have been at the start, but we've been able to keep a decent amount of money. This is actually the first time I've gone for a pure painting run. That's just partly because I really wanted to keep like the bright young thing going here. I essentially wanted to take this, this kid's privilege and turn it into, like just completely live to it. Like the way I normally play a bright young thing is to go from like a super pampered youth to like, working as a day laborer and just getting, pummeled by reality. This one is completely like, yeah, I'm leveraging dad's connections and I'm taking all of this advantage that I was given and I'm going to establish myself as a painter, and sucks to be you that you weren't able to follow your dreams, haha, I'm rich. So I'm not going to say that Lord Bullingdon is a particularly likable individual, but he's the individual I'm playing. Okay. Let's see if I can make this work. Yep. So essentially what we did here is we neutralized the restlessness, and that's good because we had a season of despair coming up. These contentment wouldn't have lasted long enough to deal with it. I haven't lost my glimmering. Now, the worst that would have happened if I lost one of these glimmering was I would have just had to use this one to bump it up. But again, I didn't need to worry about it. I was able to neutralize the threat. I was then able to get some painting out of it. The risk that I've now opened to myself is that I have a minute where I don't have painting available, which means that not only are these notoriety able to be picked up, but the notoriety that I get from getting an additional character is also potentially going to be coming up. But there's other ways around that. I'll get into that a little bit later. What might happen, assuming that the notoriety doesn't get picked up by the Weary Detective, I'm actually going to have 3 notoriety to spin off a lot of money with. One thing I might have done differently is I might have tried to talk to Jannings ahead of time to try and get a commission. I wasn't really thinking about that at the time, but that's life, I can't do everything perfectly yet. An unpromising address, but a promising resident. Enid, an acquaintance. Enid speaks softly, and sometimes her gaze doesn't focus on anything visible. It may be that you've dreamed the same dreams. You may be able to recruit this acquaintance as a follower. Actually, sorry, I put acquaintances on the chat here. That is dicey. It seems to be going smoother now, and yeah, when it's great, it's great. You are so excited for the new legacies. Are there multiple legacies, or is it just the Priest that's coming out? I believe Priest is Nock themed. I know there's supposed to be like a winter one coming out. I feel like there's a Nock one, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, I don't really want the buzzing in the brain, so it's not that villain Neville. Don't let Sin see you write that. This is something we need to try and get. Priest and Ghoul. Ghoul has to be winter. We have got to try and get Octavian Zero to play Cultist Simulator. I'm Orf TV. Thank you very much for that follow. Let's go to the well. We went to the Temple of the Wheel last time. Hey, Furtive Truth. A detail smuggled in from an adjacent narrative. Don't speak this where you may be overheard. Alright, the velvet is strong and the wheel... strong at the wheel in the wood, and the velvet is the hour that keeps secrets. But now, now and then, she lets a little secret fall, like a crumb at a feast. Last night, I found moss-clad rock written all around with the secrets of another history. I might give thanks to the velvet, but it will be wiser not to draw attention. Okay, so that's my slightly higher secret histories. The big thing is I actually don't need to worry so much about the secret histories at the moment, because I still need to get my like level 1 locations, but I also learned that if you have the potential of rivals, it doesn't make sense to stack up a lot of locations right away. So I'm going to be a little more cautious of that. A Pillow of Winds, thank you very much for that follow as well. I know you're already a Cultist Simulator fanatic, so I don't think there's... It's always nice to have people who really like this game who follow the channel, because I definitely know that for experts of the game, I don't really communicate anything new, but I appreciate that a lot. Thank you. And why don't I jump into Ox Discord and toss the idea at him? Because it means so much more when you people say it. I mean, you know all of his secrets. All right, we've got the fortune teller who is not the best at getting rid of evidence, to be completely honest, but I'm going to roll the dice on it anyway. The worst that happens is I get another notoriety, and I'm already going to have notoriety. That's the whole problem, so I can live with that risk. You know his true name. I don't think I know his true name. I bet I could get it if I asked really nicely. His real name isn't Pepe, is it? Is that why he's trying to rehabilitate it? He who walks behind the Scion. I should also note, by the way, I am a little bit over time. I also had a later start. That's kind of why I'm running through. When I say overtime, I'm actually just referring to the time that I wanted to be in bed. But I'll go a little bit longer, but I'm just going to try and find a natural resting point on this one. So this is the introduction to Lord Bullingdon. This will be the playthrough that we're running through. It's possible that we won't necessarily see this one through to the very end, because you know, if a new DLC comes out and I have an opportunity to play one of the new legacies, it's probably not the best use of that opportunity to play some of the old material. But the way I traditionally get around that is by saving a special copy of the file, and so long as it does not refer to it as an antique and blasphemous save, we should be able to carry on with the story, so we'll figure it out. My cult is founded on Edge. We are the Church of the Bright Edge, an occult society dedicated to the hours of struggle and conquest, and that tells you everything you need to know about Lord Bullingdon. Skill, a fevered imagination. Phantoms ride my waking mind. Use this with 4 lessons learnt to gain more passion. Now, whether or not I'm actually able to get 4 lessons learnt is another question, but I am able to paint again. Of course, I also need inspiration. So let's take our fleeting reminiscences as an example. Now, I've got my study open again because I have the glimmering, but there's nothing directly that I can do with that right now. So let's start and do a little bit of character building. And in this case, we will read Gildersleeve's Latin grammar. Just what you need to refresh your knowledge of Latin. That's what you get for, you know, for going to a special school. The wolf despair prowls elsewhere. No dread empowers this despair. It is over for now. And another peculiar rumor. That means another notoriety, and because I've got 4 slots available, that means another moneymaker for me. So, while I was returning to the depths, one appeared in front of my eyes, whose mouth was sealed. When I saw them in the great emptiness, I cried out. I think that last night I met another soul in the wood. I will never recall exactly what we said one to another, but I think that we will recognize each other in the waking world. Alright. And again, I still have the passion to burn, so I will burn it. This will buy their loyalty for now. Now, I think I might have made a mistake doing this, because I'm not really going to be able to do anything with them until the evidence comes out. And even then, they're a fairly weak choice to deal with evidence. But I can always rebuy them if it comes down to it. It just means that it costs quite a bit. Alright, Alright, we've got an acquaintance, we've got more mystique, we've got our occult scrap back, and we've got a hanger-on. That sounds like somebody who might want to meet Poppy now that I think of it. Let's have a... Oh no, first thing I'm going to do is talk with Jannings about getting a commission. So, Good Count's fraternity in Europe is seeking a particular research. I also don't think I gave his introduction. So, Count Gottlob Jannings represents a continental confraternity of physicians and duelists. He could use your assistance. The fact that Jannings is a duelist means that we'll get along well. Alright, so an overlooked place, it's unlikely I'm going to take advantage of it, but it doesn't hurt to have the option. Let's use the peculiar rumor just so that we can add another body. So here's what he needs. An edge commission, you say. Nope, this'll still fit. Okay, good news. Let's bring Enid into the fold right away. Now, a very substantial edge is going to take me a while. I really only have level 2. I think I forgot to spend... Nope, I didn't lose the money. Alright, my recent work has accrued modest fame. My latest paintings have reviewed well. There's more contentment, there's also more glimmering. If I want, I can actually double that up into a lesson learnt. I think I will do just that because I'm going to keep painting forever. This time we'll paint about my contentment. The timings definitely create a little difficulty because I do really want to get this notoriety quick. But the doors in the Palace of Memory have opened and I've learned Latin. So let's go read... nope, before we do that, let's double up my glimmering. I'm happy to read books and learn Greek and stuff like that, but I don't want to lose glimmering just to that, so... Before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen a knife, so it can separate a drifting thread. And if it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Enid speaks softly, and sometimes her gaze doesn't focus on anything visible. She sees things that others don't. I didn't know that it was the same text for some people. Alright, let's just plow right in and upgrade the hanger-on as well. Usefully malleable, but they'll probably never amount to much. Incidentally, if there is ever anything that troubles me, there's other ways that I can upgrade follows. I don't just need to use the lore. The lore is the most obvious way of handling it. We'll get our occult scrapped. I walked the wood last night, and the scissors worked in the distance, and the furred things crammed my mouth and swarmed my ears. I felt the old urge to drop to wolf fours and nose among the roots, but I remembered that I walk upright by day, and know fire and steel and words, and at last I found where the velvet had concealed a secret on tree bark beneath moss. I read it then with the tips of my fingers, and I think now that I could write it in full. Okay, I need to make a decision about my fortune teller, I think. I'm not entirely convinced that they're the best person for me to hang on to deal with evidence, but they are at least a moth figure, so... You don't think you've ever tried an edge cult? Sounds difficult? Well, here's the thing. Like, this isn't necessarily going to be a preview of way I go through it. Weather Factory does actually have recommendations in terms of what they think are sort of more straightforward cults to learn. It actually might even be... I'm going to just take a quick second in the mobile app because I believe they give the new player's guide directly in the app. And I think this is just because they sort of knew that the mobile audience would have a different reaction to the game. I've always kind of felt that Edge should be one of the easier cults, but people do say or seem to think that it isn't, and I think it's probably just it's probably more of a matter of taste. I'm just gonna bring this up. Lantern, Grail, and Edge are good. Okay, so they do say that Edge is a good starter society. And I think that makes a lot of sense for me. So, it's not the most elegant playthrough, but the thing about Edge is that there are a lot of things in this game that really can be overcome with just raw power. If you have got some top tier Edge people in your party, you're going to be able to deal with a lot of stuff on expeditions. You're also going to be able to deal with most of the other frustrations in the game. Now, maybe you don't find it the most rewarding narrative experience to go from like playing Doom to now playing this really nice card text game and being like, yeah, I'm just going to kill everything. But it's actually not a bad way of going about it. That's not the reason I'm playing it this time around. I may not actually kill that many people, but Edge is one of the cults that I haven't done yet, so I thought it would be interesting to try it, and I'm getting a bit of a shape in terms of what Lord Bullingdon's gonna look like. So I made my option there, but I think actually Lantern Grail and Edge are I think they're right in saying that those are three good starter cults. Demskag, welcome. I should warn you that I'm probably going to be wrapping up fairly soon, but I appreciate you stopping by. I take it you're a fan of Cultist Simulator. If you're not, if you just found this place randomly, then I'm even happier. But I love this game a lot. What else did we have here? Cutting to the heart of the matter already, I see. I guess you don't think you ever felt like you needed to kill someone, since the only guy you'd want to is the hunter, and worse hunters come. True. It may also be, I mean, sometimes there are people you can kill in the game that people don't necessarily realize you can kill. I'm being a little vague on that one because I don't necessarily want to tell you a way of overcoming other problems inside of the game unnecessarily. Or alternatively, maybe not yourself, but other people who haven't had a chance to play the game yet. But it's honestly, it's a very different... like, it's a big playthrough thing. So, like, the first time I played, I definitely used Edge a lot. And what I noticed when this came out, I mean, I'd had, you know, tons of hours in it. But when it first came out, there were a bunch of people coming into chat. I'm like, why don't you kill that guy? Why don't you kill that guy? You know, you should kill that guy. He's going to put you in jail. And I'm a little bit like you in saying, it's like, well, there's other ways of dealing with problems. You don't actually need to kill everyone. So I definitely think it's an individual taste thing. And honestly, like it's like deciding certain endings over other ones. Like there's definitely points where you're like, I think this is an interesting place for the story to go. And it's one of the reasons why I enjoy this game so much is that, while it's maybe not the headline feature that you think about, I actually think this game is quite good for the fact that it really does seem to give you a lot of options in terms of, you know, how you want to shape the character through their behavior. Yeah, I'm sorry for that, Demska. I mean, if you, I know live streams are probably what people are looking for. I do always archive the stuff that I do. But in this particular case, I've been going for I'm actually in sort of the overtime right now, but I wanted to see if I could sort of land this in a decent enough place. So we do this every Wednesday, but my hours may not work that well for you. I'm happy to have you here though, so I will do my best to keep you occupied. And if I didn't realize Cultist was that rare. I'll be sure. Like I said, I do it every Wednesday, but I'm actually I'm starting work 2 hours earlier than I normally. Actually, yeah, it's 2 hours earlier than I normally do, because I'm on a special course right now. We're actually making a brand new survey, so it's very exciting for stats nerds at least. But it does mean that I need to be a little bit more disciplined in things like bedtimes and that. So I know, you know, nobody wants to hear that the entertainment's going away, but I am but a man. Literally the only one streaming it at the moment. Awesome. This is the only reason why I'm in double-digit views. It's nice to know I have a captive audience. I can be a complete jerk if it comes to... Nah, it's not true, but... no, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for stopping by, because I definitely know my style is not for everyone. But we'll make the most of what we have. Obviously, there's no point in me going on at great length about the fact that I'm close to wrapping up and then not actually playing the game. So we're going to add Valsine into the Edge Cult. Valsine has operated her establishment for almost 20 years. She has never employed an assistant. Her hands are terribly strong. "20 people that know your location. Spy." Okay. Where are we? Ooh, that's actually really good timing. We will deny the hunter another chance to grab my notoriety, and we will make money doing it. So what I'll do here, I'm actually going to do a portrait of the fortune teller until we can find somebody better to deal with the police. You'd be studying for an A&P exam right now. All right, so here's a question. I'm assuming that's anatomy and physiology. If it is, let's make this interactive. Chat, what cult do you think is the best for studying A&P? You wouldn't have stuck around just because you were the only one streaming it. Nice. Thank you. Yeah, we'll make this is the audience participation part of the night. I want to hear your votes for the most A&P on brand. Lantern or Edge? Grail? Yeah, I'm more on Sean's side on this. Almost forgot to pay for my paints. There are more windows in my soul, but sunlight is not the only thing that passes through a window. So we're already getting some more glimmering through our painting. That's why I keep doing that. Well, this will be helpful. An experienced swindler is definitely somebody I want to keep around more than the fortune teller, so we'll pay for their services. Okay, Lantern definitely I'm like Lantern fan number 1. So anybody who says Lantern as an answer to anything is already like in my good books. But I also think I will be like hung by the lampposts if people hear me rant about Lantern anymore. So, of course, I have a little Greek already, but I'll need more than a little. Kerner and Goetz Ausstrifik Grammatik der Griechischen Sprache, a Greek grammar, an essential weapon for a ferocious struggle with a challenging language. I have no idea if this is the inspiration, but for some reason, I always think of Kerner and Goetz as like Diels Krantz, as in like the Diels Krantz numbers. And the funny thing is, like, Diels and Krantz, it wasn't a German grammar book. It was classics. But you're more of a Moth fan? Heart was one that charmed the pants off of me. I really loved playing my Heart playthrough, and Heart has some of my favorite writing. I am still, like, just deep down a huge Lantern guy, but I really do love all of the writing for the Heart cards. Also, we do have a special thing that we do whenever Percussigan comes on the screen. Let's go back to the well. Hey, another peculiar rumor. This might lead me to someone I need, or it might mean something else entirely. So many things rise from the well and the wood. Last night there was a swarm with wormy roots. The trees clustered and whispered. Perhaps they were welcoming the influx. I found a sleeping soul ensnared in the roots, and I helped them struggle free. When they wake, they will recall my face as I do theirs. Alright, before they speak the words, the novice must sharpen the knife so it can separate a drifting thread. If it be not sharp enough, it will be the worse for them. Valsine's ingenuities are endless, and her grip is stronger than a blacksmith's. Church of the Bright Edge grows stronger. Alright, let's just take a minute to figure out where my next move is. So, peculiar rumor to explore after we hire the experienced swindler. I don't really know if I want to talk with Poppy yet. makes as much sense for me to go back to the Mansus and let's talk about forbidden things. Talking publicly about the invisible arts will attract attention. Perhaps that is what I want. Oops. My name is known. My work has done well. All right. I don't think this is the right... Oh, no, it's because it's dim. That's why. I see things. I see you're different. This hireling may be useful for some expeditions and can help with hunters and annoyances. I think I'm just going to dump it all. Okay. Still have my 4 notoriety. That's a given. I do want to use the peculiar rumor, but I can't really work with that right now. Yeah, I do. I just need to paint whatever I can find, and then I'll paint the swindler when the time comes. Fleeting reminiscence it is. Now, I have my usual sacrifice to Poppy if it comes down to it, but the thing is, I don't really have a major advantage for doing that contract right now. I mean, it's always nice to get the stuff, but I'm not really hurting for the money. I've actually done quite well for myself as far as the passion is concerned. It's also kind of nice too because, of course, I keep painting, I keep getting more glimmering at a reasonable enough rate that I'm able to sort of upgrade things without worrying too much. I actually just need the 3 lessons learned. Oops. There's my experience swindler. I just need the 3 lessons learned, and I'm... Oh, don't do that. I suspect that at the end of the story, I may find someone who will hear what I have to say. But yeah, I need 3 lessons learned. I use a collection of poetry, and that's the end of it. So, a determined and distinctive tongue, but I have the measure of it. Okay. Let's keep reading. I'm going to do the burning of the unburnt god. I'm going to rearrange things just a little bit. Actually, I'm going to move the... Obviously, we keep Christopher and Teresa together. I'm going to move the secret histories to the side because I'm doing okay for those. These are lore that I probably have the most immediate need of, so I'm going to hang on to those. We'll start with Burning of the Unburnt God. Jensen's hypothesized a pre-Zoroastrian fire deity whose rites were the rites of smiths. Once you finish up for the night, you think you're going to delve into some Darkest Dungeon. Why not Cultist Simulator? Although Darkest Dungeon is a very good secondary choice. I actually think I might be signing off for now. Because my reasoning behind it is this. I kind of wanted to get the 2 languages down, which I've now done. Obviously, I have a huge library that I need to deal with. I've got enough money to go buy new, books if I want or need to. Essentially what I'm doing right now is I'm waiting for the hammer to drop as far as the notoriety is concerned. This current loop is not going to last forever. What's going to happen is I'm going to get an additional notoriety from the exploration here, and either he's going to eat through all the mystique, or the notoriety is going to pop out of the painting or the exploration that I did. I'll still have 4 to paint with. That's fine. I'm going to be okay for money for the next little while, but I'm going to now have to deal with the evidence. So it's very likely that the experienced swindler will be enough to deal with the evidence, but it's not guaranteed, which is why once I finish tracking down the rumor, I'm actually going to send the pawn out to go and continue to explore the streets until I know that the evidence has been dealt with. The thing is that I think it's going to be a while for this, like, for this suspicion to actually work its way through. So I figure it gives me a little something to work on. I've sort of occupied all of the verbs for tonight. And I'm really bad when going between Cultist Simulator games or streams. Like, it's a week, I have a week of like work and like side projects and all this other stuff, and of course I play other games too. So the next week comes by and like I take a look at the board and it's like, what the hell was I doing again? And then sure enough, I wind up like canceling some really important plan that I had. So this seems as good of a place to end as any. I'm probably gonna screw up doubling up this Glimmering here, which probably would have been the smarter move than reading the Burning of the Unburnt God. The reason I did Burning of the Unburnt God is twofold. We've got Valsine and the cult now, so I kind of want to... Ideally, I'd like to have... That's the wrong spot. I'd like to have kind of lore to match each of the characters. So, you know, Moth for Porter. I can get Winter from, you know, Traveling at Night or On the White. Nock for Enid. We'll get that from the Gallimer work. And Valsine... we'll get, it'll be Burning of the Unburnt God, but we can also get that from the Six Letters of Necessity. But yeah, I mean, this is just kind of a flavor thing for me. I'm just gonna build up the lore to match the characters that I have. Anyways, thank you everybody for watching. I'm sorry for some of you that this was so short. If you don't mind, I am gonna bring the UI back to what I'm accustomed to. Also, for those of you that care, bird is always the word. I do need to call it an evening though. So for those of you unfamiliar with Cultist Simulator, do check this game out. It is lovely, and I think it's well worth your time and attention. It's an unusual game. It is one that it's not for everyone. You will tend to notice when the game goes on sale and new people play it, the rating sinks down a little bit, and this is just, you know, look, this is true of a lot of things. I used to work in movies, and the movies that I made are not the movies I liked watching. But look, the movies that I made, some of them did very well, and some of the movies I like watching did not do well financially. We're in a very nice place where there's enough money to be made for original creative stuff like this that we get more of it. And we're also in a really nice point where it is not that risky to try it. I can tell you for sure that you will probably decide whether or not you want to like stick with it within the 2 hours. That's kind of the benchmark. This is the thing that's hard about Paradox games, by the way, because like 2 hours is a throat clearing in that game. So like you may not feel like you're informed enough to decide whether or not you want to keep working with Imperator or Europa Universalis or Crusader Kings after 2 hours, because there's just so much depth to them that you really need to spend the time learning it. Cultist Simulator, you're going to have a fairly clear idea about whether or not sort of the fact that it's always just keeping some information like just out of reach from you. Within the 2 hours, you'll figure out whether or not that is a mechanic, or not even mechanic, but a style of play that works well for you or not. This has been a really special game for me and the stream. I remember playing it when it wasn't the first beta, but like it was or alpha or whatever you call these things. It was definitely like the Unity prototype that I played, but there was something really unique about it, and followed it ever since. I will say again, Weather Factory have been remarkably cool developers. I've definitely had people who've made the game come into the chat. I don't think they've ever explicitly come into the chat during a stream. I have a feeling that they have been in the chat and like not participating. But I do think they have actually seen the stream live before. I have my guesses as to who it is, but I can't say. But yeah, like just in terms of the interactions with them, they are remarkably nice people. This is true of a lot of independent developers, by the way, because this is inevitably the point where I happen to mention Sean's a game developer too. But no, like it's something that went from, hey, this is really cool, I want to follow it, to I'm going to stream this a little more regularly and share it with other people. And then just the level of interaction with Weather Factory that has come out of that. They're impossibly nice people, as well as being remarkably talented. And it's not just in terms of like making games that I like, but just finding out how, you know, there has to be some things that they did not know how to do at the very beginning of the project, and yet they're in like the final version. And it's just amazing to see stuff like that come together. So I'm absolutely a super fan for this. I love streaming Cultist Simulator. It always brings out really nice and interesting people. I have a great time playing it, and it has been a game which is as rewarding as a sort of a streaming event for me as it is just a game that I've really enjoyed and a community I've sort of enjoyed interacting with. But on top of that, like Cultist Simulator was really a point where I decided, like I said, there had been developers who'd come in when I'd streamed the game before, but the level of engagement that Weather Factory made with streamers really made me decide, you know, this is something I would like to pursue a little bit more. And it actually made me do things like go out when I moved to Ottawa to work in, to work in my field. And the first thing I did, see, the thing about Vancouver is there's a really robust game development community there. You've got Clay, who did Don't Starve and Mark of the Ninja and Invisible Ink and all that sort of stuff. You've got Brace Yourself Games, that's Ryan Clark's company. They did Crypt of the Necrodancer. They're currently doing Industries of Titan, which, by the way, I think is the best name for a game ever. That is such a well thought out game title. You've got Red Hook, who did The Darkest Dungeon. It's Tyler Sigmund and Chris Barassa's company, and then obviously there's a few other people who are associated with it. Power Up Audio's there, so they're not a game developer, but they've worked on everything from like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons to Into the Breach. They worked on Celeste. They also worked on Darkest Dungeon. Actually, I don't know if they were the ones responsible, but I feel like they were the ones responsible for that big ancestral bestowment where like a whole bunch of streamers got the recorded alerts from Wayne June. That was a really cool idea. So that's Kevin Regami's company. I don't know if there's another founder, but I definitely interacted with Kevin, and definitely a gentleman and a scholar, because I'm a nobody, and he certainly is getting piles of awards for all these cool indie games that he's doing. But this is the big thing, right? Like, if you think about Vancouver, where I hadn't really, like, I was always sort of on the periphery. I knew of people. Oh yeah, Jake Burkett, like Grey Alien, also, like, he was one of the people who sort of founded some of the indie developer stuff in, or helped found, like the Full Indie Summit and stuff like that inside of Vancouver. This is stuff I was always aware of, and I would try to go to when I could, but I was very much on sort of the periphery, and of course I was in grad school and stuff like that. So, you know, going from a very vibrant community like that to Ottawa, where I'm sort of like, well, who the hell makes games in Ottawa? Is there even somebody who makes games in Ottawa? Oddly enough, as a side note, I'm sorry it's going to be a slightly negative point, I actually went to a Unity thing in Ottawa. The first thing I heard was, what's a diplomatic way of putting this? Someone who was not shy about sharing any opinion that they had, going on at great length on something which, if I paraphrase, is largely, anybody who goes to university is an idiot. You know, I didn't go to university and I turned out great. I'm running my own company. So everybody who goes to university is an idiot. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is definitely an environment that I want to be running around in. I actually didn't, it's not that I dislike the Unity group. It's just that the presentation, it was just kind of like we sort of went, there was a presentation which I wasn't really clear on because I don't know Unity that well. And I didn't really get a lot of engagement with people. And like my first point of engagement was basically hearing somebody say that the 5 years I spent on a degree I am moderately proud of, by the way, was apparently a big waste of time because apparently he made a video game at some point. But like again, you don't want to have one negative experience just completely ruin the thing. So partly because of the Cultist Simulator thing, I actually went out and sought out, places to find out who are doing small games that I otherwise would never have heard of, and eventually I became aware of Dirty Rectangles, which is sort of local game dev collective, and it is full of really interesting people, really nice people who do really interesting projects. Sean is one of them. So I am still not a game developer. I at least tried a little bit in terms of the Global Game Jam, but showing up 24 hours late is not exactly the best way to start a thing like that when you don't know the first bit of game development. But yeah, I mean, it's a really welcoming environment, and again, like, it's not just that Cultist Simulator was a special game in terms of just being able to engage with, a game company and a game and a community in a way that I hadn't before, and obviously one that was really helpful with the stream. It actually led me to a slightly different way of thinking about the stream, and specifically the sorts of things that I might want to highlight on the stream. And it's actually one of the reasons why maybe I never want to embarrass Sean when he comes in. I've stopped immediately dropping what I'm doing and playing a game on his itch page when he visits, although I fully intend one day to have a bunch of I'm just going to play a bunch of Dirty Rectangles games, because I think they're very good and I'd like to share them more with you guys. But yeah, this is definitely the sort of stuff that I like sharing. And so it's why I kind of take the time to do these debriefs. It's why I don't mind kind of going on at length in terms of chatty stuff with Cultist Simulator, because it really comes back to the things that I was originally interested in terms of streaming, which is being able to share games with people, being able to share experiences that it's just nice to be able to share this game with people rather than sort of sit in isolation and push cards around. Also, let me just take a quick second and catch up with some of the chat in here. So Sunless Skies, I did do the Kickstarter for, but I haven't put a lot of time inside of it. Sorry about that, Resonance Factor. I don't know if you're still around. Velkin says, you quite liked frustrating the hunters to the point that the timer on the evidence would run down. I've definitely done that before, although in this case I'm probably just going to take the evidence and destroy it with the hired hand. We've got Isaacson saying you watched someone agonize over the bird and worm things. Did they figure out what they were for? Resonance Factor says it's a game that really wants for a tutorial, but part of the magic is throwing yourself at it blindly until something works. Yeah, that's the big thing, Resonance Factor, because they've actually gone on the record about this. The mobile game has given a little bit more in the sense that they did give sort of the press and streamer guide. They've actually put that in the options menu in the mobile game, but I think it was Alexis who said this, and he basically said, if you hold someone's hand at the beginning, if you give them a tutorial, then effectively you are teaching them that their hand will be held later on. And essentially all that you're doing is delaying that moment where they say, I have no idea what I'm doing. And the difference is that, of course, in one scenario, if you include a tutorial, you create an expectation that the game will guide you through. And in the other scenario, you are clear up front, we're not helping you. Even then, by the way, there was a compromise that was hit on that. They added all of that square bracket text that says, if I do this, something might happen. If I explore with secret histories, I'm going to find a new location. And you'll notice as the game goes on, there are fewer notes like that. Also, the game really does have a natural progression from the aspirant, the bright young thing, and the physician. And if you think about it, the things that you are lacking in each of those playthroughs tend to be the way that you learn a new concept. So, how do most aspirants die? They either get very sad or they get very starved. Those are probably the two biggest. Actually, we can check the Steam achievements to see Let's take a quick look at the Steam achievements. We can actually see exactly what the most common death is. Oh, now I've gone and done it. Yeah, so the most common death in the game, 43.5%, is people either starve to death or they get sick. Second most common death is despair. And the third is, I think, okay, what do you think the third most common death is? It should be really obvious, I think, but as I carry on though, like essentially, you know, so if you die to starvation, the bright young thing makes it very hard to die to starvation. It is defined through its abundance. But the bright young thing has its other problems, you know. Aspirant essentially gives you a cult for free. Bright young thing really doesn't. It's like, it sort of does. There's definitely a reason why Order of the Bloody Cup is one of the most popular. It is not the second most populous, but it's a pretty similar one. You have to unfortunately go. Love you all. Hope you all have a great night or day. I'm going to be gone for a little bit. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's actually Poppy is the third most common death. Oh, hi, by the way, Ben Pin. That's surprising. Well, like, to me, that's just the indication that people go from like aspirant, bright young thing, and then physician. It turns out I might be wrong with that though, because it seems like the unflinching order is. Oh no, I know why the unflinching order is more. It's probably because bright young things don't actually get to the point where they found the cult. They probably died of Poppy before they found the cult. Following that, it is Bars Across the Sun. It's imprisonment. That's afterwards. I'm actually having a little difficulty finding the fascination loss in here. Because you're right, like when the game first came out, fascination was a really hard one to... It may be that they don't have an achievement for it. Oh, nope, under an appreciable mental strain. So that is actually less than imprisonment. I am shocked that only 12% of players have experienced a fascination loss. I do not actually have the achievement for despair loss, and 42% of players have that. But yeah, I mean, so all that I'm trying to say out of this is, so while the game doesn't have a tutorial, it's not just that you have the square bracket comments. You actually have a very natural progression from aspirant to bright young thing to physician. Each of them will give you the thing that the previous playthrough was missing. And they will then take away something that they kind of feel like you need to learn. So the bright young thing, you actually kind of need to work to figure out how to get a cult and how to get books. Aspirant, it's actually very straightforward to get lore. And you kind of take it for granted. So that's why the bright young thing is so confusing. And then, of course, in the case of the physician, it's actually not that obvious in terms of how you get passion. You need to work at it a little bit. But the physician is also one of the hardest ones to, like, lose to not having enough money. And, you know, that's kind of the standard. I mean, I think there's also some people who are like, yeah, I knew the game once I got to bright young thing. That's totally fine. I'm not saying that everybody plays this way. But there does sort of seem to be a structure of the game. It sort of has a natural progression system built into it. So while it doesn't have an explicit tutorial, I actually really do think that the game was designed in a specific way to make sure that people were learning what they needed to in, you know, in an indirect way. But like I said, like I'm completely smitten by this game. It's such a good one. And like I said, the people behind it are... are impossibly nice. So it just, it's one that I love recommending. It's one that I love sort of kicking the tires on and trying to figure out how it works, and just it's a great ride. I love talking about this game. But Kicknick, I'm actually just wrapping up. I'm so sorry. It's great to see you again, though. I'm sorry I'm going away. Imperator will be back on Monday, though, if that's what you're looking for. Let me find somebody to host before I lose all of you. We've got a few good people up right now, actually. But remember how I was saying that... I was talking about the Cool Eagle. Now, the Cool Eagle is not doing Cultist Simulator right now. He's doing Rogue Tech, but he's a really good guy, and he does do Cultist Simulator. So one, for the strategy fans among you, I'm sure you're going to like Rogue Tech. For the Cultist Simulator fans among you, you'll probably get along well with Cool Eagle. He's a nice guy. He'll probably be finishing soon too, but I want to leave you in good hands, and you've definitely been very tolerant with my rambling. So I will wish you all a very good evening. I'm going to get my contacts out. I'm going to try and get some semblance of sleep so I can be, my country needs me. Who will punch the numbers if not me? And I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll see you all on Friday. I haven't decided what the game is going to be yet, so maybe I'll do something from the Epic Store so that I can finally get more of those affiliate sales. But probably not. I think I will play something I want to play, not something that I think I will get money from. So have a wonderful evening. Please treat... hang on. I gotta do my raid message. Check out the Cool Eagle. If he isn't your thing, there's a couple of other people you might like. Kilgore Trout's currently playing Wolfenstein, the 2009 version of it. And Rift Tracks is always a blast to watch. But I will wish you all in a good evening, and please treat Cool Eagle well.